Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Eric.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Episode 299. You know what that means, Jeff?
That you're gassing it up.
Should I not be?
I don't know. We don't have a guest for 300 yet, so let's just chill out.
Facts are facts. This is episode 299.
It doesn't have to be.
We should celebrate that.
No,
great job.
It can be whatever episode we want it to be
by getting it to this point. 299 episodes. And so, Jeff, I thought for the intro, I would reach out to the internet and say, "Hey guys, what do you want us to answer?" And Jeff, what did the internet have to say?
They said this is a clever way of getting around the fact that we didn't have an idea for the intro, I guess.
I didn't want to talk about normal stuff or Facebook stuff or the weather.
When have we ever talked about the weather?
Probably never, because talking about the weather is like the lowest common denominator.
Sure.
So I'm glad that we avoid that. We made it 299
By the
episodes.
way, it's really nice out right now.
Before we even talked about the weather.
It's like 60 degrees out.
Listen, the weather's been crappy. The weather's been great. Who cares?
I care.
What does the internet care about?
All right. Young Citizen, our man from North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Said, what are y'all's favorite R&B artists?
Wow. What would you say?
Right now? Ari Lennox?
Yes, definitely. How about any classic R&B? The OJs.
Okay.
The Spinners.
Okay.
The Temptations.
Okay. I'm into Philly Soul. I'm into Willie Hutch.
Is there a point now where no one's going to be surprised by any answers that people have? You know, when they're like, "Hey, what's the new artist to pay attention to?" It's like, man, everyone listens to the same shit.
Willie Hutch is the new artist everybody should be paying attention to. MF Gloom, great name.
That is a great name.
At Pontification on Twitter said, "Did you have beans on toast when you came to London?" I definitely had beans. I had a full English breakfast. I didn't have it on toast.
Well, yeah. Is that something where you choose to have it on the toast, or is it served to you like that? You know?
No.
You don't know what I'm saying?
I have no idea what you're saying.
Okay. Do you get toast and beans and put the beans on the toast?
I had a deconstructed beans on toast, meaning I had beans and toast.
Yeah.
Dave Castles said, would y'all ever do a podcast tour interviewing artists or creators in those cities?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
That is an idea that we have had for a while and one that we've pitched for a while.
I don't want to go to every city and just interview people, 30 people at a time.
No. It was more let's get Lupe in Chicago.
Right. Big names.
Yeah.
Not upcoming talent being hey, so I've never met you and I've never heard of you. Tell me all your story.
Where's Willie Hutch from?
I don't know.
That makes it difficult. Also difficult?
I mean, he was on Motown.
He's
I
dead.
Guess. Yeah.
All right. So next.
All right. Next question. SGC Teen Library.
Oh, from Staten Island?
The St. George Library Center in Staten Island said, do you have a library card? Yes, I do.
Okay.
Favorite book? I don't know what my favorite book is.
I'll tell you my favorite book from 2019. It was called The Library Book. It was by Susan Orlean. Everyone should go check that out.
I'm currently reading Fordlandia, which is about Henry Ford building a factory in Brazil.
Yeah.
Come to Brazil.
Had the book for a while.
And then, I gave it to Dad, and then I didn't read it for a very long time.
I thought I gave it to Dad.
I gave it to Dad.
I'm pretty sure I did. And then it was in my library.
Pretty sure I gave it to Dad.
It's the library book.
Yeah, the library book. JPN Inc. 1 said, who's on your wish list for the pod this year?
Man.
Too many people.
A lot of people.
2 Chainz. I also don't want to give out too many names.
Yeah, that's always a tricky thing too.
I don't want people to think I'm a disappointment.
Right.
Jay Crack said, when is Schoolboy Gang on the podcast? See previous question. Rod Almighty said, top 3 favorite rap ad-libs.
Let's do 3 between us. Okay.
Okay. I feel like it's going to end up being 4, but it's fine.
I have one that's early. Is it too early? I don't know if it's too early, but it is a favorite right now, today. DaBaby saying, let's go.
I can't tell if you're saying let's go and it's short or let's go Busta Rhymes on...
Well, it's not Busta Rhymes, let's go.
Let's go. That's
a line. That's not an ad-lib. An ad-lib is Jim Jones. You know what an ad-lib is.
Yeah, sorry, Judge. That's one line.
Right. That's not a line.
Right. But let's go is not a line.
Yes, it is. He wrote that. That is part of the line. That is.
Okay. I'm going to move away from this. I would say Cameron saying sturdy chin.
That's a good one. That's a good ad lib.
Yeah.
I also like Juicy J going, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like Block Boy JB. That's on my mama.
All right, so there we go. 4.
Oh, I have a few more, but okay.
Do you want to go?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
I think the internet can live without me going through a bunch more. El Brain, a.k.a. CKOS.
Mm-hmm.
CKOS? CKOS? I think so. Said, last dope movie you seen.
Okay. Well, we've seen a lot of movies. 1917, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Jojo Rabbit.
I want to see 1917 again.
I rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on the plane back from Seattle.
Parasite is amazing.
I haven't seen that yet. Little Women.
Skip from BK, our man from Brooklyn.
Yes.
Said, what are your top 5 favorite songs in your catalog?
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to assume that is the catalog of ItsTheReal songs. So let's just say Suns Out, Guns Out is up there. Let's say Girls with the Dirty Souths is up there.
Yeah.
Let's say Waco is up there. And definitely go and stream Sugar High with us and Currency and Smoke DZA. And let's get that over 1 million on Spotify.
I think we're missing one. Grow Your Ass is like a metaphor.
That's a good one.
All right. Jonathan R. Sin said, which film directors would you consider and or enjoy having on the podcast to have a career-spanning conversation with?
Fantastic question.
Would love to hear an It's the Real and Greta Gerwig conversation or an It's the Real and Spike Jonze conversation. So we reached out to Spike Jonze last year.
Many a time.
A bunch of times.
Yeah.
Hopefully it happens this year.
There have been other directors we've tried to get on here. Let's just say that is certainly one direction we are looking forward to moving in this year.
Ernest Wilkins, our good friend out in Chicago, said, Desert Island, you can only listen to one group's records together and solo forever.
Yeah.
Mobb Deep or UGK.
Well, with all due respect to Mobb Deep, who, without them, we don't have our name, UGK.
Right, because they say, it's the real shit that make you feel shit, dump them in the club shit.
Yep.
I feel like I would listen to more Mobb Deep.
No, you would not. Are you joking?
I don't know.
You don't know if you're joking?
I can't tell if I'm joking. I feel like I feel like I listen to more Mobb Deep than UGK.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think Bun's going to be like pissed about that.
It doesn't matter. It's up to you. I'm just surprised.
Yeah. Soulful Mike said favorite pair of sneakers from 2019.
Oh boy.
I only wear the same shoes every time.
That's not true. You don't enjoy other pairs of shoes beyond the Agassiz that you got in 2019? You have a good shoe collection.
I like opening them up.
Jeff does unboxings. Check that out online. YouTube.com/ItsTheReal. I guess the Supreme Tailwinds. I like those a lot.
Lauren Passell said, when did you realize that you were funny people, that you could make people laugh? Maybe a moment when you were kids. I was in 4th grade in my classroom, and I got up while my teacher was teaching and started like doing shit. Like I did like a hula dance, and people were
amused.
Dying laughing. Class clown.
I was also in 4th grade actually, and I had a pair of shoes. We didn't have the nice shoes like we have these days. We had a pair of shoes that maybe you picked up at like Caldor or something like that, and I made a joke about them to some of my friends, and they laughed. And I felt really good about myself. Also, there's another moment. I remember after I graduated college, I went out to LA for business, and I came back, and I had a certain way of telling these insane stories of things that I had gone through, with renting the car or people I met out there, whatever. This is right after I graduated college. I came back and I told stories to Mayo and Shin and you guys, and I remember getting a huge reaction of being like, a sense of humor that's very much like the ones that we have today and that we share. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so it goes.
No Soy Irwin. I am not Irwin. Said, what are y'all making for dinner?
Tonight? Great question. I don't know. It is, well, we probably have like another hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. So I don't know. Catch us after the podcast.
Also, it's New York City. I'm not making dinner. Straight Razor Fresh said, you and all your brothers, so that's all three of us.
Yes.
Stranded on a desert island, which bro will you eat first? It's a great question.
Right before this.
It's a great question that
I put out word. I was just like, we're so proud of the questions that we've gotten so far. And this is the first one that came in after that.
Mm-hmm. It's a great question.
It's not a great question.
I would say I would eat Eric.
Oh, my God.
Because Dan knows how to make money.
Oh, my God. On the desert island.
Dan can start a business.
Next question.
Bluto the Don said, which Rosenthal has the best sneaker game? Dan included in consideration.
I'm going to say Jeff does.
That is very false. I would say Eric.
No, Jeff has the best shoe collection.
I wear one pair of shoes.
Because everything else is DS.
Yeah, it's all dead stock. Pragmatic said, hidden talent we don't know about. I think that most people know about my impressions.
That's where you were going? I thought you were going to say that you have a sick dab.
I do have a really sick dab.
And Jeff, you don't even break it out for the public.
No, I can do the shoot. I can do the I can do all the young kid dances.
All the dances.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Fly Young Sam said, who cleans the bathroom in the crib, Eric or Jeff? Well,
Hold
here's
up.
the thing. We've only had 2 bathrooms in both of our apartments. I clean my bathroom, you clean yours.
Yeah,
I'm not cleaning Eric's bathroom.
What a stunt, by the way. 2 bathrooms in this place.
Fuck I look like? Eric's assistant. But I clean mine. Mine is the guest bathroom for like when people come over for the podcast. So
Also,
more people see my bathroom.
Jeff has 2 excellent framed photographs in his bathroom of Puff Daddy on a Halloween evening dressed up like a Spartan.
Yeah, well, it was... So if people want to look it up, I have 2 framed pictures of Diddy at Mariah Carey's 2005 Halloween party.
They're very, very funny.
I really enjoy it.
and it's funny whenever, like someone, a guest uses the bathroom and comes back and they're just like, those are really funny.
I got to be honest, I'm very happy that Ryan Leslie did not use the bathroom when he was over here. That was something I was worried about before he came over, and I'm really glad that he didn't.
Yeah.
And the last question.
Yes.
Devin No One Cares, which, by the way, a lot of people care, Devin. He said, when's the last movie that made you cry?
Well, as everybody knows, I watched Jerry Maguire recently on a flight and wept.
Wept?
Wept when...
Wept?
Yeah, I wept.
You...
Full on cried.
Were you... Which seat were you in? Middle?
I don't remember. I was fully engrossed in the movie, Jeff. Jerry Maguire. Very emotional movie.
I don't think it is a very emotional movie.
Well, when's the last time you watched it on a plane?
I guess I have a movie to watch when we go to Miami next week.
Jeff, who's on the podcast today?
Riggs Morales.
Riggs Morales, the vice president of A&R and artist development at Atlantic Records, formerly of Shady Records, formerly of The Source magazine. There's a lot of, as we know, different ways to make it, quote unquote, make it in the music business. And I think Riggs is an excellent example of, going your own path. He loved the idea of the music business, but didn't see a direct path in. And when an opportunity came to work at The Source magazine, he took it, not knowing that, okay, yes, this is the step that will bring me here, that will bring me here, that will bring me here. And what's cool is he got to where he wanted to go, but not necessarily by any blueprint. And if you look at where he's had his hands this entire time, whether that's finding an Eminem tape in a huge refrigerator box full of cassettes, or finding Lin-Manuel Miranda off Broadway.
Oh, I thought you were going to say hiding within the giant box of cassettes.
There's no perfect singular way to, again, quote unquote, make it. There is...
Well, I mean, sure, you could do Blood Sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You could do like us and join the Illuminati.
Yeah.
But the harder and perhaps more satisfying way is to just be a good person and just work hard, and eventually you'll make it. And I think that's something that if you look at the last 299 episodes, that is a commonality that you'll find with just about every single person we've had up here.
Except for episode 200, where we talk about our story.
Again, blood sacrifice, Illuminati. So, Riggs Morales, this is a great episode. Shout out to Riggs, who we looked to make this happen for a while, and I'm glad that we finally did, and what a great guy. Jeff, when do you want to get into it?
Right after I tell people, wherever you're listening, smash that subscribe button.
Jeff, when?
Right now.
Anything else?
I'm good.
All right, you good, Riggs?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, great. Yo, what up? It's Eric, a.k.a. Cancel Peter, a.k.a. Dragon My Mink.
Yo, what up? It's Jeff, a.k.a. Drop a Dime on You, a.k.a. Empire State Building.
Hey, this is Riggs, man. I didn't see that one coming. Shit. That was awesome.
Yes, your third favorite podcast. Ways to tell me that it's real. Riggs, what's happening?
I'm good, man. Shit. Had I known, I'd have came in with the whole Riggs flair, Riggs Ricky Small,
Oh, man.
Riggs Ross, all kinds of, but I didn't know. So
Riggs Ross is really good. Man, we got a lot to cover, right? But I do want to start with this, and it's amazing timing, being that you're recording here at the beginning of January. 17 years ago yesterday, In the Club by 50 Cent dropped.
Oh, wow.
And I know exactly where I was. I was pulling into Jamie Gary's driveway. We're going to watch football, and Funkmaster Flex played that record for like at least an hour straight. Where were you that night?
Were you at Jamie Gary's house?
No, I was not.
Because that was a game-changing moment, not just for like Shady Records and really Interscope, but like hip hop at large. And it just seems like it's everything before In the Club and everything after.
I agree. It's funny because I recently saw like a debate as to what was the most highly anticipated debut like in recent rap memory, and somebody brought up Illmatic. I'm like, no, because there wasn't at that time. It just dropped. It almost like was the Beyonce album before the Beyonce album, but it was literally between Snoop and 50. Like Snoop's debut
Oh
with
my
50s
God.
with Fifth. It's just like because I was so surrounded by it. You kind of like don't realize how big it is, and then when you finally when I heard it in the club, it's like, oh wow, you know. But then in the back of my mind, because again we're so into it, I'm like, damn, that was a D12 joint. So you know,
Yeah, well,
go Fifth.
Yeah, how did it get from D12 to 50?
I think once Fifth got signed, he just racked up whatever was in front of him that Dre had at his disposal, like you know the record with the shotgun.
Yep, Heat.
Heat
Yeah.
was a Rakim record. As you know, Rakim was signed to Aftermath.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
doing a project at Aftermath. So Fifth just went in and he was in such a zone. That was apex Fifth creatively. It's just like his ability to just, he knows what he likes. He knows it, and he just took it somewhere else.
So you were there for the whole process of
Yeah.
that first album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
50, comes in with all this baggage. 50 is, dropped from Columbia.
Yeah.
50 is, known as a street rapper. 50 gets your attention how?
I'm smoking weed with Sha Money XL.
Oh, man.
So Sha, prior to being 50's guy, was just this really dope producer in the New York scene, and we'd always catch up. He was always good for one or two bangers on a beat tape, and I knew that he was working with Fifth, and I was looking at the Fifth thing from afar, kind of like, damn. Like what's gonna happen here? At the time, I was still wiping off the residue of being a music journalist,
Yeah.
so I can honestly say I wasn't the biggest fan. I was just like, he just reminds me so much of like Mace and kind of that New York centric thing that everybody at the time was doing. But then, unfortunately, once he got shot, it added a completely different dimension and dynamic to music, perspective, the whole nine yards, and Sha and I would kick it and he would play me music. I'm like, and again, I'm going, damn, like this kind of would make sense here, but it's too risky. At the time, you've got to bear in mind, like it was the Murder Inc. like wave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to damage any business relationships with them. But I've always felt like, man, we don't play in that sandbox. We're not looking to rock over Irv Gotti beat anytime soon. Nothing against Irv Gotti, but it wasn't part of the sonics that we had Dr. Dre, So, and the stars starting aligning. I know that Paul Rosenberg had brought M up to speed on 50 during 8 Mile. But if you know anything about M, he has blinders on whenever he's focused on something. So it's not really something that was of priority. But I know that we were all fans of his in the office of 50, and slowly but surely the stars aligned. And there was one time, it was M's head of security at the time, Box would come in once, I want to say every other week, and just rack up, what you got for me, Riggs? And I just have a bunch of mixtapes from even, from Jay Grand to Absolute. If you had a mixtape, I was like, I had it, and I was,
And Box was just getting like stuff just to play,
just to go back, go back to
keep him current, and
mm-hmm.
yeah, okay,
yeah. And one of those things was 50's music, and he played it in the car, and again the stars aligned. It seems like he played it right when M was wrapping up and just was getting out of the 8 Mile zone, battle rap, going back to the rabbit roll.
Yep.
And next thing you know, about 3 days later, there's a meeting. 3 days later, there's a deal, and here we are. Get Rich or Die Trying came to fruition.
In your memory, was there any competition for 50 at the time?
Not that I recall. I know that Universal was making a play for Fifth. But again, to pull the trigger, I don't know that anybody wanted that baggage.
Yeah.
And for me, I never once thought of it as he'd make sense for us because we're dominant, there's beef. Nah, it was more like musically, aesthetically, he makes sense for what we got going on here.
And Eminem wanted him.
Yeah.
And then you put Wanksta on the 8 Mile soundtrack, which was the way to set it all the way off.
It was the stars aligned in a way that just you couldn't believe it.
So what was it about that record that made you want to put it on there as the sort of first offering of the new 50?
I think it was the initial reaction from everyone in general, and at the end of the day, that's an M call, and I think that was one where it's just let's put this in there. And there was another record that M was working on with Obi that 50 jumped on. There's one thing's called Love Me.
Yeah.
So this was at the tail end of that. So that's how that ended up panning out. When I tell you the stars align, bro, the stars align in a way that all you could do is just watch, watch it all unfold, and it was quite an experience.
Yeah. So let's go back to the very, very beginning. Where are you originally from?
Here, New York, Manhattan, Uptown, Harlem, Washington Heights. Born and raised in Harlem, and Washington Heights, which is a mile away from each other.
What block did you grow up on?
I grew up born and raised on 138, and then later on 163rd. I come from a divorced household, so my mom's lived in Washington Heights on 163rd. My dad lived on 138, and so I used to. That was my stomping ground for a hot second, but I would go back and forth to a point where I had to get reminded that Washington Heights and Harlem are not the same thing.
Yeah. How did you get reminded of that?
I got a big reality check from a friend of mine who lived on 135th, and it's like, dude, that's not the Heights. I'm like, but look, it's blacks and Dominicans. It's just like, nah, bro, this is Harlem.
Yeah.
And literally from, I think that's when he said, from 155th on is Washington Heights. From 55th down, it's mostly Harlem.
Big family, small family?
Mid.
Okay.
Mid, I got two brothers, 3 sisters.
Where do you fall in line there?
I am the youngest of the sisters. I am the oldest of the brothers.
Wow. So does that mean that you get away with a lot of stuff, or does that mean that you are held to a higher standard, or
does everything sort of change also because of the divorce dynamic?
It's interesting because like you can see now in hindsight why it didn't work out with my parents. Like my dad was, the super of 3 buildings. It was all about work. Like I cannot get an allowance unless I helped out with, garbage. Like I have a thing now where I walk by, like Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays. That's garbage day. That's when you have to take all the garbage and put it in the front so the truck can come pick it up the following day. My mom was a little more looser, and I'd go uptown and just be back by 10 kind of thing, and I can go past that. So it was a pretty interesting dynamic. But my dad was a bit of, not a Rolling Stone per se, but my sisters are from another, relationship that he had, and my mom went ahead and, she moved on, and so that's where the family's kind of mixed.
What train did you take from uptown to less uptown?
I'm a 1 and 9 guy.
Yeah. And now there's no more 9.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I'm an A guy too, but more of a 1 and 9 guy. It was routine, especially once you go from 125th, that pocket just takes you outside and you're like, into 116th. Yeah. I'm a 1 and 9 guy. If I used to cut class on the 1 and 9.
Really?
Just to avoid truancy. Just stay from there to South Street to 242nd.
Wow.
South Street, 242nd.
Were you jumping the turnstiles? I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
Pass. Okay. I had a pass. You know what? I'm over here like,
I was like, this isn't like that kind of podcast, but I'm also
straight snitching. Yeah. My first hop in the turnstile was 96th Street.
Wow.
I went to Big Apple Comics, and I went with a friend of mine. I got bagged. I was a kid, and just like, that was the beginning of my hard life.
Yeah.
Fucking turnstile criminal.
Just trying to get to Big Apple Comics.
Dude, as a kid,
Yeah.
you know, the only comic books you got back home, back around the neighborhood, were the ones on the rack that you got at the smoke shop. Like a place that hubs solely only comic books.
Yeah.
I'm out. Let's go.
And I mean, like, I do want to say to people how big of a comics book fan you are. You, Sid, all you guys. You, especially, though, you went on a tour of the Game of Thrones, like, locations.
Yeah.
So, like, you were, like, in.
You know what? I didn't put two and two together until I got there. I was like, you know, telling my wife, I'm like, hey, I think we're so I started Googling it, and yeah, we were at the freaking Game of Thrones, you know, the area where not the Lannisters, where the Red Viper and his family are from. It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
So
I'm open nerd.
Yeah, but does that come from a place where you wanted to escape? You wanted to like go somewhere else with your imagination, or where do comics sort of enter your life?
My uncle, old Vietnam vet, I think that was his therapy. He came back with super PTSD, and he would just pass along. You know, I walked into his room one time, which is like against all rules. Like my mom would be like, "Don't go in there, no entra ahí," and it's just like I walk in, there's a Thor comic, and then this, and then he started putting me on. So he just passed it, and it just had an effect on me. I think comic books and graphic novels in general are just good exercise for the creative mind. You know, I know they're looked at a certain way, at least not anymore.
Yeah, I don't think anymore.
Not anymore. Like it's funny because like when it's finally society caught up with us, in a sense. But
well, with you guys, like I'm not into comic books still.
Yeah.
I do want to draw a red line in the sand. I know, like we're cool, but don't include me in this.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the book collection, like, man, you know what? You're right. It's like a Kazi Soze moment. Yeah, he's right. So yeah, that it was escapism, man, and it helped. You know, drawing and just like. Quite honestly, they were way too advanced for me, so I just looked at the pictures and just went from there, and it was always like tattooed in me. So to see the genre grow the way it has been very rewarding, very fulfilling.
Were you drawing comics? Were you thinking of writing comics?
I tried.
Were you creative as a young man?
I tried drawing. I would trace. That's about it. You know, big Transformers. The Transformers are the easiest thing to draw. It's like a box truck, red, Optimus Prime. That's about it. But but I knew. It's funny in hindsight. You realize like you're attracted to the creative. So, you know, especially the world of comic books is just it's its own thing.
Living up in Washington Heights, this is not like today's Washington Heights, where it's like no crime, where it's like, you know, more gentrification moving uptown. What was that experience like growing up on 163rd?
It was the drug dealer capital of New York for about 20, maybe 30 years. Once crack hit, like in 85, that's when you just started seeing the change. Like, I grew up around, when I see you grew up around crack vials. We didn't know that they were crack vials. We just see blue top, red tops, all scattered throughout the floor. So we'd bring them home because for a kid, your eyes are attracted to the color. So I would collect crack tops. And then, you know, you just start seeing the changes throughout the neighborhood. The precincts were far apart. And sometime in the mid-90s when they got really crazy. Like where I was born and raised just became, what's the name they gave it? We called it Hick Island because once you came off the boat, once the Dominicans came off the boat, that was your training ground. And there were no rules. Once you walked by there, you were going to get not hustled, dude, like
grabbed up
the whole 9 yards, because if you don't look like or sound like, they're thinking you're there for one thing and one thing only.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's down the block from where Cardi's grandma lives.
Wow.
So like she endured that. I recently had a conversation with Cardi's aunt, and I was like, so how long have you lived here? And when she told me, I was like, so you know.
Yeah.
You know, and when Giuliani came into play, that's when things changed.
Related, fuck Giuliani.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? I forgot that part.
Yeah.
Fucking idiot. His FICO score went down quick. This guy was America's mayor. Now he's like America's turd, man.
It's insane. You're growing up there. You're, you know, living in this environment. Is there a thought to you to get out? Is there like an honest sort of like mission for you to not stay there your whole life?
Didn't think about it, but I did know that I'd like to leave. And I've always encouraged folks, like, especially from folks on the block, leave. Like, you have to leave. Step out. Start with stepping out. Don't just leave, you know, outright. Just step out. So I used to, I was a horrible, horrible hustler, you know, or drug dealer or trapper or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, you had the red tops and you had the blue tops.
Well, the thing is, I was surrounded by it. So everyone that's the only option you have when you grow up a certain way. That's the allure. They're hanging in front of the building. They're the OGs. But I had a great mix of OGs where, granted, 90% of them were hustling, but a majority of them were still like music hip hop heads. So I figured I made my niche, at least a living of sorts, providing services for the hustlers on the block. So if one of them opened up a barbershop, like, yo, you need flyers, dude, I can get you your flyers made. Or dudes have pit bulls, I can go walk their dogs, like whatever I can. I just did not want to hustle.
Yeah, you were hustling in a different way, which is the modern day version of hustling, right? Like where it's just like you just picked up whatever like job there was to do.
Yes.
And so did you have any friends who were on the same wavelength as you?
No, unfortunately.
So it really was just you.
It was just myself. It was just like, you look at it again, always in hindsight, you look around and just like, you're not the weirdo. You're just the one that has a particular vision.
Yeah. Well, what inspired that?
Growing up with my dad was different than growing up with my mom. Growing up with my dad, again, was a little more strict.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I see why he was so strict, because I lived on 138 facing down a hill. Try playing football down a hill. But up the block was the Alpo era at its peak.
Yeah.
So all you saw was cop sirens and everything, and just like once I hit a certain part of the block, he'd throw this whistle that to this day psychologically just warps me out. Like my dad's like almost 90, and if the dude hits me with the whistle, I freeze.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, again, he knew I couldn't go up there. When I would go see my mom, it's a little different, except up there was more like a village. If you're on the block, that's the block. You're protected in a sense.
Yeah.
So I just knew early on I had to just, what else is out there? And I gotta give credit to, I'm trying to think early on when I decided to just start venturing off. I want to say a friend of mine came by wearing P&B gear and Echo gear. I was like, yo, where'd you get that? He's like, oh, downtown in the Ville. And I just started doing my due diligence. I'm like, oh, okay. And they gave me a reason to start hitting the Ville.
Yeah.
Because the Ville at the time had the mixtapes, it had this, it was just a completely different environment from what I was accustomed to. Granted, I would come home at the end of the day.
Sure.
So.
But you would see something different, and that's like the big thing that you come home with. It's not like you've come home the same person.
Yeah, high school is so interesting because you can absolutely fall into whatever everyone else is doing too.
Yes.
You dress the same, you act the same, you go do the same activities. And if you're seen as a loner, then you're seen certainly as an outsider. So to do something on your own, to have that type of like work ethic, to, hand out the flyers, to walk the dog, to venture off on your own, to go get like, some new gear or a mixtape, that's brave.
It's appealing to me, especially because I guess internally I was used to the same. It's Groundhog Day. The block is Groundhog Day. It's the same thing, same bodega, same. There's a dude right now to this day that when I go back to the block, there's 1,000% guarantee that man's gonna be still sitting on that corner. I'm like, bro, what are you, security?
Cam was telling us just the other day that he knows people who never made it to Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
Which is wild.
There's people that never made it past 125th. I'm on 163rd. I've got friends now that I follow on Instagram that I realize, they'll just post up the moon. They'll post up, 4 blocks away down by Riverside. And I'm like, oh, shit, he left. He's leaving. This is what it's like for him to leave the block. It's unfortunate, but just something different always appealed to me. And it's something that resonates with me, even in my approach with life, art, music, just a little bit different.
So was academics your way out?
Horrible. Academics, horrible.
So no.
Nah, I mean, I went to Brandeis, like 3 years, 9th grade. I just never went. It's the problem. I got a lot of my practice seeing the world cutting class. It just really wasn't for me. And then
were your parents aware?
Nah, man, they were hardworking blue collar.
Yeah.
They'd really, quite honestly, especially when you grew up a certain way, most parents, especially in the inner city, they look at school as dropping them off, see you later. You handle them, It was no follow through on my homework or anything like that, And for all I knew, I probably was pretty smart, but I just never really full on engaged. It wasn't really my cup of tea. And then it was a super wake up call, man. It was just like once this school was just like, all right, enough, cool. I'm like, what can I do? Because this thing ain't working out. Got it. I'm gonna go be a garbage man. I'm like, cool. I've got enough training, being the son of a super who It's so, I clean buildings.
Sundays,
Yeah.
Tuesdays, Thursdays. Yeah.
I clean up buildings like with my dad.
But a garbage man needs to have a high school diploma.
That was a reality check.
Yeah.
When I went to apply, they were like, "No, you need a high school diploma." I was like, "Wow."
You got to take a test too?
Yeah.
Written test or yeah.
Yeah, because I thought, you know what? I like to collect things. I'm used to getting my hands dirty. So I heard the benefits, which at the time I didn't know what that was, were good. So I was like, and got the reality check. And a really good friend of mine made a suggestion to put me in an alternative school, which is kind of radical at the time, which was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Alternative, like
high
Beck.
school.
Yeah.
It's just a different format, which it's kind of, and looking at it now, it's like it was kind of genius. So basically, with the alternative school, they give you a chance to make up for all those years within like a 2-year time span.
You're going to complete these 2 years so that you can still become a garbage man?
Yeah, I just wanted my diploma. Because if I can't be a garbage man, then there's a bunch of other stuff, other plan Bs, maybe working at the local hospital, which is like the safe bet for anybody around the neighborhood, because I grew up next to Columbia Presbyterian.
Yeah.
You're going to need a high school diploma. The assignments that the teachers would give you were really different. So, for example, they would ask me, so what do you want to write about? And I did a thesis on Biggie versus Tupac. I did a thesis on Mamiya Abu-Jamal, and you have to dive into that. You have to come back with a report and present it to like 5 or 6 teachers, including the principal.
Wow.
And that's how you get so it was real world-ish in terms of talking in front of people, really believing in this thing that you're about. So they would come up with a theme, and you have to find something within that theme to write a thesis about. And I don't remember what led to the Biggie Tupac one. I was just fascinated with it at the time. But
Was it like Who Shot Ya? Like that sort of time?
I was told,
Okay.
100%. The whole breakdown was on Who Shot Ya. I broke the whole song down, how he was talking to Pac, what led to this. It was an entire breakdown. It was like almost like a precursor to what I would eventually do for a living.
It was genius.com.
Yeah. Your references were like Vibe magazine or like,
Yes.
oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Totally. Which is funny, dude. Around that time period is when I met Bonz Malone.
Oh, shout out to Bonz Malone.
God, man, bless him. He is an angel, a saint, all the above, because I would not be doing what I'm doing here if it
A couple
wasn't
things about
for
Bonz Malone. Number one, he was one of the first people to ever interview us. When we were doing sketches a dozen years ago, when he was doing Sirius Satellite Radio. And this is before, maybe it was XM. It was before the Sirius XM merger. And the other thing is that we saw him a month ago because Lior had this thing for YouTube Music and brought a bunch of people out. And
everyone was just like, oh my God, Bonz Malone is here.
Yeah.
He's an enigma, man.
Yeah.
He's such a treasure that no one really knows about.
People are more excited to see him than Fat Joe and and Chuck D. Like Bonz Malone is a G.
He's our Hunter S. Thompson.
Wow.
Yes.
Like, at the time that I met him, I had met him under some different circumstances. Again, I was a horrible hustler. I had the night shift and selling weed. So I had from 7 to 3.
Into the overnight. Yeah.
Into the overnight. And as you know, the freaks come out at night.
Yeah.
So Bonz would hang uptown with some of the graffiti OGs that lived in front of my building. Most of the TC5 guys. Shout out to TC5. And, Bonz would come by wired. And I'm just like, I found him so intriguing. He would come, I shit you not, he would come with like a Fidel Castro type suit. And you wouldn't question it, like, because he was an enigma. Like, he was friends with another mentor of mine, Juice from TC5, so he was untouchable. And Bonz would come into the smoke shop where I was,
buying comic books.
Buying comic books.
Buying comic books.
And look, another reason why I was horrible. I'm like, if you hung out with me, I'm going to light you up. It is one of the coldest winters in recent memory. I think this was like maybe 93, 94, and I'm just like, hang out, smoke. And I would end up owing, and Bonz would just hang out, and we'd smoke, and we'd kick it. And then over time, going back to school, I started building, I guess, a portfolio. One of the teachers caught wind of my writing abilities because I was, straight plagiarism. She was like, what is this? I'm like, this life's a bitch. She's like, what is this? I'm like, and she saw the lyrics, AZ's life's a bitch.
Yeah.
It's my favorite verse of all time.
Fantastic.
Apparently.
So
Yeah.
like, I'm writing it out and putting it in. We just got computers, so I want to see what it looks like. And she thought it was me. And I was just like, nah, yeah. I didn't say no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it definitely led to an encouragement. into you should write more. You should write more. And that's when I realized, oh shit, I can know how to express myself. I didn't know how, I'm not gonna.
Well,
say
you knew how to express
write.
AZ self.
Yes, right. Like I'm Anthony Cruz for my day. And yeah, that kind of encouragement helped enormously because it caught me at a time, and this was maybe around 6. I don't know. It was a desire to learn and know more. So I started reading books like The Celestine Prophecy and Behold the Pale White Horse and all these books that a lot of the Donald Goins novels, anything that was like hot in the hood.
Yeah.
You know, I was reading all of them. And that's what led to me opening up my mind a little bit more. And just work for me was, all right, you go home, leave, and then come back, because no matter what I left is still gonna be there.
Yeah.
At 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, it's the same hood, same
3 a.m., whatever.
Yeah.
Where does writing take you then?
Writing takes me to an internship at the Source magazine, courtesy of Bonz Malone. Bonz one time says, because I told Bonz I was trying to get in the music business. I didn't know what A&Ring was. I read an article in Vibe magazine about Puff, and that article A&R, and I read that's somebody who gets paid to find talent. At the time, I was so seasoned in stretching Bobbito 101 that it's like all I want is new. That's why I bought mixtapes. We didn't have Funk Master Flex at the time. Mixtapes was your temperature. That was your your newspaper on what's new and what's hot. So my music acumen was just like, it was at another level in comparison to the average hip hop head.
Right.
I just never translated that into, I guess, writing or what have you. And
So you would listen to Stretch and Bobbito
yeah.
for like, you would hear like Big L, you would hear like Jay, you would hear.
Yeah, everyone. And I just
Did you ever stop by
Where?
their studio?
No.
That was
Never.
just another world.
To me, it felt like a whole nother world where I was just
Even though it was like fairly close by.
it's right up the block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, does that mean that the source was a whole nother world? Like when Bones tells you that,
Unheard
are
of.
you like, I mean, I guess, but
Unthought of, unheard of. It's the source. It's the Bible. But at the time, Bones was probably high at the time. Bones, you know what's up. You know what I mean? I say this with the utmost. Bones was just like, come by tomorrow to Vibe magazine. Because at the time, he was Vibe. He had just left the source. There was the big walkout.
Yeah.
He was like, come by. I guess he forgot to tell me to come by. So I come by, and I'm at Vibe magazine. He's like, come with me. So I go with him. We go into a dark room. The room is dark, and sitting on the desk is Kevin Powell.
wow.
Kevin Powell had just came back from Rikers Island seeing Pac
Wow.
for his story. And I'm just like, Bo's like, don't worry about him. He's not in, don't worry about him. And I just heard the whole thing. I was like, holy shit. Everything Kevin, like, he was giving you the cheat notes. It wasn't
Yeah.
an article yet. And I was just like, I cannot believe I'm listening. I'm hearing this. No one's going to believe me.
You're like, I wrote a piece too about, Big and Pac.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, this is all happening in real time. And I'm just like, I cannot believe this is happening. And Bones respected my grind. I would hang out with him, Ghetto Communicator, a couple of the more established byline guys at the source. I was a gopher, dude. Like, was just hanging. You need something done? Go this, go that, go get this. There's some things I had to get that,
Yeah.
I
Comic books?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
comic books. But I was the young guy with the OGs, and Bones just, when I finally graduated high school, I gave him my thesis on Who Shot. He was just blown the fuck away. He was like, yo, I need you to go see Jeremy Miller at the Source tomorrow. I was like, okay. Sorry, I banged the tape. And yeah, I went. I went the following day. I got introduced to Jeremy Miller, who's another one who just, straight believed in early on. At the time, I didn't realize Jeremy Miller was doing ads for the magazine, but because of the walkout,
He was the only one that was left.
Yeah.
everyone had to take a bunch of different positions. So he was the music editor. And I remember, again, I walked, the day I handed in my first article, he's like, you need to listen to these guys, Capone and Noriega. I'm about to put them on Unsigned Hype. I was like, sure. And he played, I was like, they sound kind of Mobb Deep-ish. It's cool. So there goes my A&R expertise.
Yeah.
I like that you had strong opinions, though.
What, at that time? No, because
Yeah.
I was that dude Jeremy Miller schooled me on the other side of hip hop because we're so New York centric. He's like, you ever listen to 3 6 Mafia? Put me on to 3 6 Mafia. Put me on to ESK and just like Spice One, because he was born and raised down in the South. White
Yeah.
dude. He just knew his hip hop shit heavy. And I didn't realize that when you hand in an article, you get an assignment, you got to wait a month. So I would come back every day like, you got anything else? Got anything else? Got anything else? He's like, nah, I'll call you if I need something. And this was around the tail end of my last year of high school. So to see my byline
Oh, my God.
in the Source magazine last year of high school, oh, forget it. It was just like, to this day, I framed like my first, like, Source check and it was the show. It was a movie.
The movie.
Yeah.
The movie,
Yeah.
the show. And
Who started calling you Riggs?
The Block.
Mm.
Yeah, it was like big Riggs. It's really it's Rigo. It's
Yeah.
Rigo, and Rigo is short for Rigoberto. You know what I'm saying? So Rigo, if you know me, from the Block, or Riggs, just
So when
and
it came time to your byline, you were like, I'm going to be Riggs Morales?
I used to wild out with the bylines because I started noticing dudes that throw little nicknames in there.
Yeah.
Like the professor, or
Yeah.
such and such, and I'm like, you know what? Let me try Rigo. I even shouted my mother out in between my name as the
As your
the
nickname?
alias. It's
Yeah.
so weird. It was like bendición means like God bless you.
Yeah.
So I was like Rigo bendición mami Morales,
Yeah.
and it's just like just so she could see because my mom, she's an immigrant. She
Yeah.
has no idea
Yeah.
what this
Oh.
means.
Interning? Like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't even go there yet.
Oh.
I wasn't even interning. I got my first byline before interning. But when I asked Jeremy Miller, is there anything else I could do? Are there any internships available? He's like, well, we're about to get a new music editor. Let me introduce you to him. So that's when I meet Selwyn Hines.
Oh, my God.
And with Selwyn Hines, he had just started, and I guess again in hindsight, he needed help with the littlest things. I said, hey, is there a list I could get on? He's like, not really a list, but come by Monday and see what we could do.
You're so laser focused about getting into the music business, right? Like, I want to be like Puff. I want to be whatever an A&R is, right? But then you get invited into this whole new world, and it's in the music business.
Yes.
But it's different. Did your mind then switch, and you're like, oh, well, my focus is now going to be on writing and, reviewing and the environment of being, within all these amazing minds?
My focus was, where am I of value? Like, all right, if as an intern, how can I help? When I wasn't helping sell, I would help some of the other department heads when like, hey, you need anything? And he said, because at the same time I wasn't working, was still in school, so I would hope that they send me to the store so I can maybe keep the change, so I could maybe get a slice.
Yeah.
Which at the time was like $1.50, $1.90. So I had to map everything out. If not, I'd just be hungry for the rest of the day, until I got home. But it's almost like it happened by accident, but it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. It was just like I've always said, especially with life and careers in general, it's like you start here, and then you kind of zigzag, and eventually to get to where you want. I didn't A&R until 5-6 years into my intention.
Yeah.
When I threw it out there.
So who are some of the artists who actually like come by the magazine, like that you like see in person?
No one.
At
the time, remember there was a big old walkout, which in hindsight, like somebody needs to do a Source documentary for real. That place was just a foundation. It should be a Fortune 500 company it should have been by this point,
right.
But that's a whole other story. But like artists didn't really come by. However, when you were assigned, you were given access to parties. You were given access. So that I definitely did. Man, I remember my first one. I walk in, I was like, oh shit, it's Jay with the Damager. Which to me at the time, he was like God. He was like looking the next coming to KRS-One. And I was like, I tap him on the side. He's talking to some chick. I was like, yeah, just want to let you know much props on your album. It's a great album. It's a classic. Like what you're doing is amazing.
Oh my God.
He looked at me like, and I was like, tapped him again, like, yeah, I'm not sure if you heard me. But I said, and he gave me that look again, and I was like, fuck, bro, like, damn, wah, wah, wah. I just wasn't, so.
He was hearing it all the time.
Yeah, and again, hindsight, I'm not the only one tugging at the guy telling him how great he is at the time that, again, he was at the peak.
Yeah, he was popping.
Dude, it was like, the debut album.
Yeah.
So were you like a backpacker?
Oh,
yeah,
100%. By the way, that's the part I didn't mention. When I would leave with a backpack. Oh. In the backpack was nothing but cassettes.
Backpacks.
Yeah.
Backpacks inside backpacks. Walkman and batteries. Like batteries was the livelihood of my life revolved around batteries. So going back to the keeping the change, you hope that you found some batteries or you got enough to eat, and batteries and pizza.
Yeah.
Those are the two things I needed to just keep
Batteries
going.
and pizza would be a great mixtape name.
That would
right?
be, yeah.
So I'm just like, that's like, everywhere I would walk, I would listen to everything. Especially when it was the bootleg era, I couldn't afford to really pay the $10 for the big copy. I would just hear the Pete Rock and CL Smooth. I'd listen to everything, so that helped enormously.
What party were you at where you met or where you saw Jay-Z?
It was one of the many at the time that I attended, and this one, I don't know, it was Jay-Z. I was just like, dude was in the pic. I was like, this is the other, on some get in where you fit in kind of thing. At that time, I remember I bought a disposable camera because I had aspirations of being a photographer.
There you go.
So I'm like, I would go to the events, get the disposable, and that's how I got them. Where it's like, oh, do me a favor. Hold on. All right, cool. Thanks, man. I would just keep it moving. Then I go back to the bar, like trading cards and shit. But that was one of my first segues in. I tried to get internships everywhere else, but that just me capturing in Rocksteady Reunion and just like some of these parties. The Jay-Z one is almost by accident. Like
100% by accident. I saw your caption on Instagram where
it's like, dude, you're like in my picture.
Yeah.
But at the time, it goes to show you the grind and the hustle. That was Hove. That was 96.
Man. Yeah, you were trying to take a picture of Miss Jones, and then this dude walks in and ruins it.
Him in his like Pelly jacket. Come on, dude, get out the way. Meanwhile, it's like,
that's a classic picture.
The Jordan of fucking rap music.
So is it just enough for you to be within those rooms at that point? Like, are you like
happy to be here?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, but I can also go back, home and brag to everybody about that.
Yeah, it's I was never a bragger, which is like one of my Achilles heels in this day and age. I just don't really, bragging's backfired on me 1,000 times, so I just don't do it, And going back to the block, it definitely bought me a bit of cachet with certain folks. Like shit, I had that Reasonable Doubt album early, like Hissy Tape and all, and that was, sorry guys, but the hustlers needed that copy, man.
Yeah,
and it's just like, and anytime I had the advanced copy of something, if I can make a dub, I would do it.
Yeah.
And what kind of assignments were you getting at work?
The pivotal one, the first one actually, was when Selwyn was like, you see that refrigerator box right there? It's like, yeah, that's all the unsigned hypes that accumulated that haven't been listened to since the walkout. By then, Maddie C had left.
Yeah.
And every kid from out the country with aspirations of being a rapper would send their demo, and it would accumulate into, you guys know, a refrigerator box.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking big.
Yeah.
So how do you even approach that? Like, you're not just like grabbing from the top. Like, what is it? Just like the colors? Like, what makes you pick a thing?
Man,
the red tops or the blue tops?
Yeah, exactly.
I did my 10,000 hours from all that backpacking, listening to everything. So this is light work for me. So I'm just like,
you actually listened?
Oh, every single one. Yeah, from beginning to end, top to bottom. They were like, yo, what the? David Banner was in that box. Yeah. I listened to every single, I was hungry, and I was just like,
what was the percentage of, like, good to serviceable to, like, unlistenable?
I want to say,
because great is, like, maybe, like, one every 1,000.
My job was to hone in on potential.
Yeah.
That just sounds like I would listen to it on Stretch and Bob, but like of quality, because otherwise I want to say if there's 1,000, at least maybe 20 potential.
Yeah.
And then from there, once I clean that up, again, it was a case of just asking folks, is there anything that they could use? T. Eric Monroe would send me over. I didn't know who this guy was, but he'd send me to this guy who knew the Beastie Boys, which is Ricky Powell. So I would go to his house and just like, send stuff, bring stuff. I was a gopher. That's what I was.
I mean, did like meeting Ricky Powell mean something to you in that time?
I didn't know in time, but had I known, I'm like, shit, bro. Like, I would have like,
you were just trying to take a picture of Miss Jones.
Yeah, basically. So
you listen to David Banner. Who else comes across your desk?
Throughout the 5 years that I was there, Juelz Santana, Cardinal Official, The Last Emperor, trying to think, Chaclair. I was early on the Canadians, man. The Canadians put in work. So that's why like the Drake weekend thing is so well deserved, because I know how much that country, you would swear because it's so close, you forget that it's a country. They put in work in terms of trying to get on, and so Drake is a reflection of that, and the momentum that they have just as a dominant music place, so well deserved. So them, and most notably I think it was Eminem.
Sure.
Oh, right.
Okay.
So, yeah, sure.
Well, okay. So beyond Eminem and Cardinal and Juelz and David Banner, who's like the one that you were so sure of? You're like, yo, this one, like, this is next up, but didn't become.
Oh, there was more of those. There was more of those than there were like success stories.
Like, were you believed and like tried to put other people on? And
oh yeah, dude, yeah. I mean, remember, I had 12 slots to fill a year.
Yeah.
Like, the batting average I just gave you was like throughout a 5-year course, you know? So, like, yeah, there was a lot of good ones and some that just really weren't built for it, just didn't capitalize off the momentum or just a variety of reasons.
Would you ever reach out to them and be like, hey, like, are you sure you're ready for this? Like, you know, or trying, it was just you listened to it, you wrote it up, and that was it.
That was it. All off gut.
So for somebody like Juelz, like a young kid from Uptown, and you write him up, do you then let him know that you're going to write him up?
We never met to this day.
Never?
To this day. No, because it came through a rep. You know, it's like, yo, take a listen to it. It's like, wow, this is kind of dope. And it was him and another fella. But to this day, I've never met Juelz.
By the way, he's right over there. He's over there.
Wouldn't that be something?
The fact that you actually looked.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
really
dude, because I'm
happy.
like, it's you guys. I'm just like, you know, you guys are like honorary Dipsets. I'm just like, let me make sure. And it's Juelz too, so you just never know.
So you write these things up. Do you understand the impact that you're having on these young guys' lives?
No.
So you're just writing it up. You're a fan in that moment.
From Lyric of the Month, because at the time I started working my way up towards responsibility. So I had Unsigned Hype, but then I had Lyric of the Month. So I had to listen to demos, but then I had to listen to every album released throughout that year, that month, to find the verse of the month. Then I had to do the fat tape section, which is grabbing the album cuts and seeing, you know, what the bangers are. That was like my Stretch and Bob, you know, schooling, you know, because it's like Stretch and Bob were always great for playing those album cuts that the label wasn't really trying to go super heavy on.
So did you still feel like a Music Man in that sense, where you're like, okay, I can pick out who really, you know, could be the next one up, and maybe this will play into my career later on?
That was my portfolio. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, like, if I can get this Unsigned Hype thing, at least earn the trust to run this column, then it's a great portfolio for what I want to do down the line.
Because Maddie C went to Loud, right?
Yes, another one that I looked at as a standard. Like, you know, Maddie not only created the column, had this all-star of legends that he'd already highlighted, but then he goes on to Loud and he just, you know, knocks it out the park. I'm buying the records that he's putting together.
Did you write any profiles that really stuck out to you?
Rakim, I did the first Mace cover.
Wow.
I would always get the give him to Riggs, the underground guys. Who's his helter skelter? Give him to Riggs.
Yeah, but you also got Mace, who is definitely not underground.
I had to work my way towards that.
Yeah.
It was suggested by, after putting in work doing the Q&As, I got, you know, thrown into the big leagues. Like, all right, this is your first feature story. And I was there, man. I was in charge, not in charge, but I would transcribe the major feature stories. So when Biggie and Pac both passed away, it was my job to, you know, whatever interviews that the head, the writer would, you know, take on.
Yeah.
I'd have to sit there and just like through that repetition. Weirdly enough, and I share this with folks when they come to my office. I say to them, listen, I don't think I'm not listening. I'm actually listening. I'm just going to do some work while you play. I'm listening to every single word. I have the ability to listen to every single word as I'm doing something.
At the same time.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah.
So I have to tell them that because, you know, I developed that repetition from listening to Lyrics of the Month and listening to demos. It's just like I had to transcribe.
Oh, my God.
Which was fucking brutal, guys. You guys know. Like, transcribing is like, wait, what'd he say again? Bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back. It's, you know, Fuji's cover stories. When when Pac died, that was all hands on deck. When Biggie died, that was all hands on deck. So greatest job ever, guys. I'm gonna keep it funky. Like Julie, my boss, hates when I say that, but the Source man at that time period, like, you know.
What's your favorite Source Awards story?
Ooh.
Might have been the first one that I went to. Some genius decided to go to the bathroom and Suge decided to call folks out.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to the bathroom real quick. And I'm paying attention to Onyx, who for some reason can't get in or whatever. And they're causing up a storm. And then I come back from the bathroom and it's like all this weird tension. I'm like, what just happened? This is like the most glorious time ever. And I had just missed Suge with the, you know.
Come to Death Row?
Come to Death Row.
Is that the theater at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Surreal. Pretty surreal. That's, again, like that place was, you know, the Source was.
So you got a credential and you're like able to move wherever because you're a Source. So do you recognize like all the power in the room?
No, only the artists. Remember, I wasn't really the business side of it, who the big players were. I only knew whoever I saw in magazines or, you know.
But you recognize Snoop?
Oh, yeah.
Recognize Outkast?
Yeah.
Recognize?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
I was definitely one of these second guessers of
You
Outkast.
saw Puff?
Saw Puff.
Had you met Puff at that time?
No, met no one. No one. I met absolutely no one. I wasn't really, I kind of knew my place. So I was just like, happy to be here. I am a Source guy. And the thing is that the Source at the time held so much weight that all I had to do was use my card and I could get in anywhere. Because it's like, oh, the Source. Okay, cool. People would definitely treat you a little differently because, those mics, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm not mad at being humble and about like playing your position, but how do you advance at a place that you stay at for 5 years and still maintain humility?
because I increased my value internally with the people that matter. Didn't really focus on going out to the parties or anything like that. I mean, I would, I got the invites to everything, but then I always stayed. I used to have to go back to the block, and you get reminded on the block, like, don't forget where you from. Like, don't forget. And I had a friend of mine, rest in peace, HeadQuarterz, who was a really close friend of Premier's.
Yeah.
I used to go to school a block away from him. The alternative school was on 183rd in the Bronx, and he used to come around promoting Group Home. And he was very militant in his approach. Street dude, but very militant. He hit you with, don't fucking forget where you came from. Don't be out with them fake fucking devils. And I'm like, okay, cool. I would soak that in. I always got reminded that, almost like, don't forget where you came from.
Is it more meaningful now knowing where you came from, knowing where you went to school on 183rd when someone like Cardi makes it or someone like A Boogie makes it?
Very much so, especially because Cardi reminds me of like cousins that I have. Like Cardi, before she even became an artist, I would look on TV like, yo, this reminds me of my cousin Marissa. Like they talk the exact same way. Where it's like instead of take a picture, it's like, yo, throw the picture. It's like, yo, she's of that ilk. So yeah, and it's fun. It's like even like recently, about a couple of years ago, nobody noticed this shit. This is such an uptown thing, but for about 1 year, the Bronx finally dominated hip hop. Between you had Bodak all the way up, Drowning from A Boogie. French had the record with Sway Lee. That was a whole year of just nothing but Bronx bred hits. I don't think we've ever had that. We know that it's a birthplace. We know that they have stock. Right. But it was always a fight between Queens and Brooklyn, let's be real. And Manhattan's maybe third, So
But you're a Harlem guy.
Right. So it's just like it's you know what it is? It's an uptown thing.
Yeah.
And then going to the Bronx all those years is just like you kind of get a small badge where it's just like, you appreciate it. So
But we hosted some event like a bunch of years ago at Gramercy, right? And Funk Flex was like sitting like second row or something like that because he was being awarded something. And so Jeff and I are just like killing some time and doing bits on stage, right? Packed house. And we were just like, let's just roast Flex, right? And we're like, yo, Flex. We're like, yo, you shout out every borough. You shout out New Jersey. You shout out Connecticut. You live in Westchester.
You never shout us out.
Never.
Never.
Never, ever, ever.
Hilarious.
Annoyed us to the nth. Anyway, so you go on to meet Paul Rosenberg.
yeah, I met Paul when Eminem was my Unsigned Hype. I met them both at the same time.
Paul, talk about a refrigerator-sized box. He's the size
I thought it was his security.
of that. Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, why do you have security? You're unsigned.
Well, I mean, what'd you make of them?
M came in. Look, at the time, remember, as a white rapper, he's already an anomaly. So he comes in, chubby, little Kurt Cobain plaid, the things that play, like one of them plaid shirts, whatever, however they dressed in Detroit at the time. I didn't realize in hindsight that was like his 8 Mile time period.
Yeah.
So he was always appreciative. Like, he's a student.
Sure.
So to be put on Unsigned Hype was just like, yo.
Meant the world.
It meant the world. He comes by, him and Paul, I meet them both. They're tied at the hip. Super cool, and that was the beginning of our relationship because throughout the years, remember, he got signed maybe 2 years later. And at the time, I would stay in touch with Paul, where Paul's like, hey, man, Duck Down's interested. What do you think? It's like, I love Duck Down. And we got this Dr. Dre thing. I'm like, Dr. Dre, bro?
Yeah.
He's not hot right now, but it's Dr. Dre. Needless to say again, there goes my foresight.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. And listen to you as that backpacker. You're like, Ducktown, hell yeah.
Yes, I was a
Drew Hahn, yeah.
I had my own clique. We call it the food stamp clique. Like, that was our little, bunch of hip-hop heads with our backpack. We would live and die by everything that boot camp clique did. So I'm definitely cut of that ilk.
Yeah.
So at that time, that's how I ended up meeting Paul and M. And once by the time they popped off, I was burnt out
At the magazine.
Because I've written about everything. I've pretty much maxed it out. So going back to your question about growth, I went as far as I could. I don't know that I had interest in being the editor-in-chief or anything like that. It's time to go off and do the A&R thing. So I looked around, and
Is that scary?
Because
you know one thing, and that's been your life.
I didn't make the decision to just leave. I knew that I was burnt out, and an opportunity presented itself with Volume.com. Shout out to Smokey Fontaine. This is during the .com boom, and Smokey, along like a bunch of us magazine folk, just went to the .com. Like there was
that was supposed to be that was supposed to be the big one.
Yeah, we all left because the checks were nice, and all we had to do was just get a little tutelage on how to do this emailing thing, and
you can afford a few slices.
I started in January of 2001.
The site was down by
May or June, and I had just broken my leg too. It was the worst shit. It was just like,
how'd you break your leg?
Or did somebody
I'll
break
share
them
this
for
with
you?
y'all because it's y'all.
Yeah.
It's funny, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll share this with y'all because I'm comfortable enough to share this with y'all. Paul will always remind me of this. So the Razor scooters.
Yeah.
So I was one of the first to buy one.
It's a great start to the story.
No, so I was the first one. I bought mine in Switzerland, I think it was, and my shit was like I was Tony Hawk on that shit. I was so good. I was the only one.
The spins?
To this day, I would go to South by.
You broke your legs.
Well, I tell you how I broke my foot by. I was, being ambitious with the freestyling.
Sure.
So I was going down a hill, which at the time I was so good at. I still have mine, which I push with my son, and I drive. I use it with one hand.
Ooh.
So it's like
hard.
It's almost like,
yeah.
It's like the lamest shit, but it's so much fun.
Is this how you met your wife?
I'm just like, no. But she was around during that time period. So
I love a comic book head being like, "This is the lamest shit."
Oh no, I embrace my lameness. So I went from one. I jumped the sewer top. I was like, oof. Good. And I saw another one coming out. No, not a sewer top. Those iron, I don't know what they call them. Whenever they fix in the street.
Yes.
Those big iron, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
I was like, I can make it.
Yeah, let me jump this 1 inch.
Yes. I can make it. And it was massive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I made it. I jumped it, and then I
it's a
lost
dismount.
control.
Oh. Wow.
So when I lost control, I have a rule: jump off, because I'd rather jump off and get hurt, rolling, than having some piece of fucking scooter stuck in my neck. You know? So I jumped off, and when I landed, the foot just said clack. And there's some karma that comes with that, because I spent that summer riding around like the coolest shit on the block, and all the kids wanted to ride. And I would give some of them a ride, but once you give one of them a ride, everybody's in line. I'm just like, all right, take it easy.
Oh,
bro.
You gave everybody a ride on your one-person scooter?
No, like, go with it. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like fat. It's never been seen.
Yeah.
The Razor, dude, a week after I broke my foot and I'm hanging out on the block on a cast, this shit went mass. So every kid and their mother's just like riding past me like, look, I got my own. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Have fun, kid.
So you were on crutches?
I was on crutches.
Damn.
At that time, Shady Records had, developed into, it was Goliath Artist Management.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's when Paul had Cypress Hill, Exhibit, and Eminem.
And Benefits. Oh, yeah.
And
Did they have hand-capable entrance for you and your broken feet?
Wait, was it always the same office in Chinatown?
No, that was after Fifth.
Okay, gotcha.
Before Fifth, it was on top of Supreme.
Because the first time that we were invited down,
on Lafayette, yeah.
the first time that we were invited down to the Chinatown offices, and this is flash forwarding a little bit. Yeah, there's like 5 floors listed, and then you guys are on the 6th floor. It was like something like it was like not there clearly,
not advertised.
Yeah,
and also you had
correct. Yeah.
Oh no, we didn't just show up.
Yeah. No,
we weren't sent.
Paul said just wait it out, and then there was
we weren't sent by Ja.
Yeah. There was one door that you had to get through, and then another.
The Hannibal Lecter door.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Bulletproof. They bulletproofed it up.
And a big dude there
After Fifth. So that was bulletproof, and then the wall within that, all that was bulletproof, just to be safe.
By the way, what Paul doesn't know is right before we met with him,
he was strapped.
We met with Irv. We were strapped.
Yeah.
We met with Irv.
Yeah, we did meet with Irv at some point. Yeah.
See?
Yeah, also different circumstances. But okay, so you get the job at Goliath, and what does that entail?
So I had to find what my niche is, because I'm good friends with Cypress Hill, so I can help out there. I'm cool with Eminem, but that's already a well-oiled machine, and Exhibit is his own entity. So I was like, you need a production arm. All my friends were producers, the Beatnuts, Domingo, Alchemist,
Right.
at the time was up and coming, Muggs. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start the producer division, because I've always had a soft spot for
Alchemist
beats.
worked with the guys who sounded like Capone Noriega, right? Yeah.
No, he was Muggs' guy. So it's like he was Muggs' underling. Like I met Alchemist on the road. You ever seen that movie Almost Famous?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I had an Almost Famous thing with Cypress Hill. Like I was assigned a week on Smoking Grooves to follow Cypress Hill, and this kid, like I make beats, was like putting all the shit together, blowing the balloons up, and it was Alchemist. So we
Wow.
always kept in touch, and I started repping him and a slew of Dame Grease, and
Man.
that was fun. That was my first, again, 5 years later, that was my first introduction to the business side of it. 'Cause
Wait, what year were you working with Dame Grease?
So I want to say 02 at this time.
Man.
Yeah, like this was like right after, Swizz.
Yeah.
Him and Swizz were neck and neck.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started that, and then I kind of had an A&R hat at the time, but Shady wasn't really fully established like that. It was just like they were signing homies from Detroit. It was just OB, D12, and then I did have a conversation with Paul Rosenberg at one time. I was like, hey, so are we only going to sign stuff from Detroit? I just need to get there. He's like, nah, I want to compete with Def Jam. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And lo and behold, a couple months later is when the 50 thing took us to a whole nother level.
So your first job as an A&R was working on the soundtrack?
8 Mile. Mm-hmm.
Were you on set at the movie? Did you visit the movie?
1 or 2 times. Yeah.
Okay. What was that like?
As morbid as the movie, as dreary and rainy and as
Dark.
Yeah.
as the movie, like, and it shows.
Yeah.
But that was the horse blinders thing I was telling you about. Like, he was so devoted, and that was the zone he was in, and who knows how
Like
many-
he would leave his trailer, go film.
Well,
and
did
then
you
go back
understand
and
what
then
he was
record.
like recording in the trailer? So you just got the record in the end and were like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where, like, for my core assignment was I had to round up a bunch of the records that kind of inspired that time period. So Showbiz and AG, Last Days, a lot of the records that he went ahead and like freestyled over, in the movie,
Right.
And that was again, it's a well-oiled machine at that time, and that was my first credit. No, my first credit was on a Payday compilation with Premier and the folks at Payday, but that was like while I was at the Source consulting, blah blah blah, and that was the start of Shady as an
entity.
as an entity, as opposed to just being what they would call a vanity label.
Yeah.
Like a legitimate label.
So you're working with the biggest artist in the world.
Who I don't see as that, by the way. So going back to the humility thing, like I didn't meet you like that, so I don't know you like that.
Wow.
So it's like I get a reminder. I would get reminders that this guy's the biggest thing in the planet, but because I don't know him as that, it's different.
Was there anything that ever like shattered that illusion?
No, not at all, because he was just
Not even on his end. But I mean, like just
If you go to the
were-
MTV VMAs or something like that.
if you guys are walking down the street, you guys aren't just
If
walking
you go
down the
to
street.
if you go to Times
Yeah,
Square
yeah.
for TRL.
One time whenever you're at that level and you have to be escorted into a building, it's like a Fallon or whatever, like you time it. You time it out. You say like, all right, guys, ready to go? All right, cool, ready to go. Between the car and the entrance is maybe 5 to 7 seconds. One time he stepped out. Nobody knew he was there. One person saw him and they fucking like fainted. Like they were just like, oh my God, and then we ran off, and I had to look back like, what the fuck just happened? Like the dude was of that,
Man.
Yeah.
Lose yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear it for the first time, are you like, oh, that's out of here?
It was dope. I didn't look at it as out of here.
Yeah.
Remember, like commercial viability is not something that I was really gotta get really too acquainted with while I was at the Source. To me, it was dope.
Yeah.
A hit is a hit. But that when I heard him, like, I'm just sweating. I'm just like, oh my, because I'm such a fan of his lyrics. I'm just like, oh my God, he sounds possessed. The fact that was able to turn into a mainstream moment was just like, wow, okay.
There's records on there. Places to Go is
Yes.
fire.
Yeah.
8 Mile, 8 Miles and Running. Like,
Yep.
they're all great records on there.
You know what record was supposed to be on there? Major Look. Yeah, instead we got the other Nas record.
Wow.
They were given the choice
Per
you know, like that was the choice that they were given per Paul Rosenberg. Like, you know, Paul was loving Major Look, but, you know, the decision was, you know, ultimately on M.
Wow.
So yeah.
Then you have Get Rich, Die Trying.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that record was brought to you guys and done?
It was Fifth, M, and Dre. Like, everybody was just waiting, like, to see what the end result was gonna be. Because between 8 Mile and Get Rich or Die Trying, 8 Mile attracted a bunch of battle rappers, and, you know, I took advantage of that. I created the Monday Night Fight Club. That was the one that was like another outlet, you know, in between albums for me to just, like, you know, because battle rappers, they do have a stigma where they can't really make records, but they're gonna entertain you for a good minute.
Yeah.
So took that concept, which is based around, you know, pit bull cockfighting around the neighborhood, which is obviously illegal.
Sure.
But the idea was, all right, because everybody around that time period used to have someone like, he ain't nicer than my man. Oh, he ain't that good. So it's like, oh, if he's that good, put money on it. But how do you do that without, you know, like, it's trap money. It's like, you know, these are hustlers and this is their breed, and this, you know, how do you? So I got 3 judges, and I just went into the Rolodex. So I was like, all right, first one's gonna be Lord Finesse, Dame Grease, and Minya.
Wow.
So it was just like every week I would have new, because I needed to be partial. We can't be looking biased. So the bet was based on, you know, how much you feel. Like 100 and 304, and, you know, that was awesome. That was a moment. That was right around the smack time period.
Where were you doing it?
At this little studio called Fight Club Studio.
Yeah.
And,
We've been there.
You
it
can't
was
say
just-
Flight Club around Minya.
Yeah.
No, oh, right. Sorry, my bad. And with Fight Club was just like this little studio that, you know, it started because these 2 girls just weren't getting along that worked at the studio, and they both rapped and like, yo, make them battle, yeah. So it was a pool table, and I was just like, you know, so we started putting money down. I was like, I got money, you know, but it got weird because, again, who's gonna? I was forced to judge. I was the executive, and you know, there was no harm, no foul, but I just took that and just like, all right, we got to do this weekly. So you didn't know about it unless you were invited. You know, and I used to have M security just like
Paul Rosenberg.
no.
By the way,
But, like-
when you first met M, he had darker hair. When you first
Yes.
met Paul, did he have hair?
Yes, he did. He did.
What was it like?
He did. I want to say like almost not
Like a Costanza?
like a Alex Caruso.
Okay.
Almost.
Okay.
Almost. Paul's gonna kill me for this. But
Yeah.
yeah. It's he had hair.
So working in the music industry made Paul lose his hair. Understood. Yeah. But
Lose your hair.
yeah.
Sorry.
As an A&R for Shady Records and Goliath Management, it's a higher profile gig. Does that mean that more artists come your way and try to give you demos and try to knock down your door and try to get signed?
Absolutely.
Did you miss out on anybody that you wish you signed?
There was so let's see. There's ones that we had an opportunity to, and then there's ones that I would go after. Like, you know, I'll tell you straight up, I wanted Juelz so bad.
Yeah.
Once I saw there was some sort of friction with Dips, I was like, dude, we need him here. We will turn him into, you know, there wasn't no consistency in the correspondence there, so we had to let
Sounds
that
about
one
right.
go.
That continues to this day.
Sure.
Well, crazy enough, he's right back there.
Good guy. Fucking Pitbull. Pitbull came by.
Wow.
He played me his demo, and I told him, I was like, this is cool, but the more energetic stuff that you're working on, because Little John had done just 2 demos out of the 6 or 7 that he played me. And the more energetic, it was so obvious. It wasn't the 4 on the floor stuff, but it was just
like
more the sense and like,
Yeah.
So he's one, no regret there. He went off to do it. It just didn't fit. I have to keep in mind that it has to fit in brand.
Yeah.
Plus the boss man has to like it.
Yeah.
So over the years, I tried badly to sign Dead Prez.
Wow.
That fits in.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I would have.
Well, I mean, aside from them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have gotten a preview of what the next album was going to sound like, and about 3 of the cuts were produced by Kanye. And I
Wow.
was like, Kanye, those records to this day.
But Dead
never-
Prez wouldn't have been open to signing to Shady.
Yeah.
They would have been?
No, we talked. No, but when I say I wanted to, it's because I engaged.
Wow.
Towards the later years, before I left, J. Cole came across our
Yep.
desk.
Yep.
Kendrick, from what I understand, although that's more of a Paul story. In fact, I believe Paul was the one that suggested Kendrick to Dr. Dre when Dr. Dre was looking for someone to write, for his Detox album. Stephen Vick will tell you I tried very hard to get the clips, and I did want to split them up, just like, see what we could do with that.
Bring him to Fight Club.
No.
Was that in that period of time where like the Jive situation was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Once I get
Coming
wind that
apart.
there's some, like, one of my favorite
Florida
artists
Water.
is there some, 100%. I
Yeah.
was like, so what's going on over there? Who else? Kid Cudi. I remember because
Wow.
Email's, a good friend of mine. I would
Yeah.
always go to see Email, and we just listen to breaks and just listen to grooves. And this Cudi kid that worked at the Babe store was happened to be there. And he's just like, I'm like, so you rap? He's like, yeah. It's like, cool. You make music? Yeah, cool. Hey, playing my shit. And then he had to go to work because he was, he was late for work, and he played me day and night. I was like, oh shit, this is fucking awesome. So we tried to make something work, but as soon as Kanye put his arm around the dude, it was over.
A wrap, yeah.
So rap. And it made sense that I really thought that he was the one that I thought we could have evolved, because while I was up at Shady, I was looking for ways as an A&R, how are we going to evolve with the changing of the times?
Sure.
Like, we're smack dab in the middle of this Kanye era. And the Kanye era, I feel, was a great era to really have fun with this. Like, if you're rocking over Bjorn fucking tracks and just like,
Peter Paul and Bjorn.
yeah. Just like if you're having fun like that, like, we should be able to get in there. And I honestly think, and it sounds crazy right now, but that dude kind of saved rap music, because at the time, especially kind of fault of ours, but like everything was just so battle. I'm gonna get you. Like, it was beyond raps now. Now it's just like protection vests and all that other shit. And
where were you when 50 and Kanye went at each other on?
Still at Shady.
You were
Yeah, I
still
was
at Shady.
Were you there for the Rolling Stones shoot?
No.
Oh.
But I saw it. This one of those things where I was like, this isn't going to end well. If you read the temperature, Kanye represents...
Oh, no, we knew that, like, I mean, I think that from the outside, like, you could just see that the more that 50 tried to, like, rally his troops to be like, hey, like, this is going to be my last album if this guy outsells me. It's just like, oh, if you have to do that, like, I think we're all on board with this guy.
It's a 5-year thing, man. It changes every 5 years. Like, right now, we're at the threshold of, like, whatever just happened the last 5 years. So, no disrespect to anyone, but, like, if you're doing the same shit that's been going on for, like, the last 5, like, these kids, it's
oh my God, our podcast is almost 5 years old.
Different, just from a music standpoint, And I remember the temperature like yesterday. I used to get killed because I was such a Kanye fan. The guy brought back fucking drum breaks and samples. And it's just like that shit that really made you love hip hop.
You were a part of the Curtis album. Mm-hmm. Were you a part of naming it Curtis?
No, that was all him.
Because that's brilliant.
Totally.
Like the phone call between 50 Cam and Alan Grunblatt, and that Cam used Curtis as a sort of put down,
like a dig.
And that he took that and owned it and made it his album title was brilliant.
100%.
I mean, 50, no one will say he's not brilliant.
Yes. 50 to this day, this just feels like he's the smartest guy in the room. His angles and perspective. You know how, like, we thrive to find these blind spots? He sees every single angle. And to be quite honest and transparent, like, that dude, he was self-sufficient at that point. Mm-hmm. So, like, with Curtis, it's like, that's all him. He was his own ecosystem.
What'd you think when he gave, like, half of his, what was to be the Massacre to Game?
Oh, my God. It's crazy because, there's the sophomore jinx, and while I really enjoyed Massacre, I felt like could have shaved a couple of songs off. Mm-hmm. But then when you compare it to the Game, it's just like, fuck, dude, you mean to tell me, like, all this peak later end Dre, you gave it to this dude? And look,
well, also the Cool and Dre stuff. Like, did those beats come to you?
No, that was actually Sha.
Oh,
Sha had that beat.
Wow,
like, that was a Sha special.
Man.
Yeah. So, that man. When I listened to the is it the documentary?
Uh-huh.
The
first one.
like,
wow, you still have beef?
I know. Yeah.
No, right? It's like, you still feel a sort of way. Yeah. When I listen to that album, I'm just like, wow. But that also is an example of the powers that Fifth had as a songwriter. Where just like, here, you can have that.
Crazy.
It's like,
how'd you know it was time to leave Shady and look for something else?
The temperature, mind you, I did a very quick and quiet, was it 12 years up there?
Yeah.
You know, like, credit to Paul. Like,
It's pretty significant.
Paul, like, that's the one thing. Everybody at that company is pretty much a day oneer. And, you know, we got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm either going to continue to do this or I've got to figure out how am I going to evolve into a better music executive. You know, this is during a very self-aware period. I have to grow. I shouldn't be sneaking around fax machines reading deals to learn. You know, I really had to get out there, and I realized that the ecosystem that is Shady is completely different from the way, you know, everybody else works.
How old were you when you left?
That's a good question.
Finally.
That's man, I'm trying to remember. I want to say maybe it was 6 years ago? I was definitely in my 30s. I want to say mid to late 30s.
So you were at like a transitional point, like, because like your 30s, it's just like your 20s, you're just like you're riding along.
Yes.
Your 30s, it's like, okay, I've really got to like figure shit out.
Big time.
And so you went to Atlantic, but were there any other option? I mean, I'm sure you had a lot of options out there.
I did. I'll be transparent. I did, but just didn't make sense compared to what I had going on here.
So what drew you to?
The ability. I've always admired Atlantic from afar. I always, like, fuck what anybody says. Even before I got there, like, Atlantic set the standard for A&Ring, you know? And that's, at the end of the day, my passion. Like, there's a list of who's looking that would always make the rounds. That was like a Mike Karen list, you know, and it was very specific on what they were looking for. I got the list because I work with producers, so I'm over here ready to looking to submit. But I had always heard stories, you know, about, you know, their process, and they're really diligent about A&Ring. So I'm like, you know, when the opportunity presented itself, shout out to KP.
Come on, Prete?
Yeah, yeah. KP was at the time was up there, and he was just like, we had worked together on the Yellow Wolf. Well, we had experienced that together.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, I've always admired him and his work, and we, you know, mutual admiration. So he presented the opportunity. He suggested me to Craig Common, and Craig Common in turn gave me a
music
call,
guy,
and very much so. And Craig Common, without me knowing who he was, I remember I cold emailed him about something Saigon related. I got this beat here. This is amazing. Saigon can kill it. Yo, the dude responded, and I was like, okay. And that's the guy running A&R and everything at Atlantic. So,
by the way, we are on totally different levels. You're over here. We're somewhere in the other room, right?
Whatever.
We cold emailed Craig when we were really nobodies, and about Phil Collins, and he responded right back, and he was like, "I'm going to look into this," which
You're
was
a Phil
wild.
Collins guy?
Yeah.
Well, we were trying to do a song with him.
Well, yeah, and it still is a great song, but the problem was that
I said that it was too Lonely Islandy.
Well, yes, that, but the real problem was...
Oh, right. He had done a Rolling Stone interview where he was like, I'm sitting in Switzerland, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
And we were like, well,
it
doesn't
not
seem like a great time to get him on a song.
How long ago was this?
Oh, man.
2010.
The aughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the aughts, yeah.
It was a dark time for Phil, especially.
I can share this now because it probably will never happen, but I've been trying to get a Victory Lap album out of Phil Collins for years, like with, you know, via Drake. I'm like,
do you want to go to Switzerland?
I certainly don't mind. Yeah. I'm like, Craig, you ready? It'll be Drake and Phil Collins, the Santana treatment. I want to totally give him the Santana treatment.
Get Rob Thomas on there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant Juelz Santana treatment. Which, by the way, yeah.
Fucking dudes, man. So
no, Craig is like that guy.
It's definitely, I admire and notice things like that from afar. And when I went there, everything I set out to do up there, I did. In terms of just becoming a better music executive, you need more perspective. You just can't do one sort of thing. And that's why when I went up there, I was like, I'll do urban because that's my pedigree and I do it with my eyes closed. But I'm also allowed to do pop rock.
Yeah.
And I can also dab into the marketing side, working with Julie Greenwald, who's one of the smartest person in
Genius.
the room.
Yeah.
It seems throughout your whole career and your whole life, if you want to do something, you'll go out there and try it.
Yes.
You'll make those first steps and like push yourself to the ledge.
Yes.
Was there an OG? Was there somebody that you could like to the side be like, yo, I'm considering this Atlantic deal. I'm considering leaving Shady. Maybe I'm considering 2 or 3 other places or situations that you could rely on to be like, am I crazy?
I wish. I don't. I have friends, if you can call them that I can, one or two that I can rely on for some broader perspective. But I can't say that you've never heard of someone like, Riggs came up under, the way, most people do. For whatever reason, it's definitely not a social thing because I embrace.
We're exactly the same.
Yeah.
No one's exactly you.
Yeah, and I realized
there's no blueprint.
Early on,
yeah.
There is none. I'm like, dude.
I have a twin brother who's not exactly me.
No, really? Stop playing.
Yeah.
No, really?
I really. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it's not him.
No,
it's the other one.
It's my regular brother. Yeah.
It's Dan.
Yeah.
Shouts to Dan. He was here last night.
Yeah.
My man Dan.
Yeah.
I don't. I never had a soundboard. I had people that I would kick it with, but this business is so territorial that when I did share with one friend, he was like, "Damn, dogs, that sounds like the job I was supposed to get." And I was like, "What? The fuck?" I wanted some advice, bro. It's just like, so that definitely,
put that wall up. Did that
100%.
color that relationship as well?
No, not anymore, because it's one of those things. I'll address it right away just for the sake of moving forward. But wall.
Were you nervous in taking that job then?
No, I was relieved because I'm gonna get pretty much what I thought was a fresh new start, and I'm gonna devote the first year to kind of making up for the last couple of years of not growing.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got to, like, if Greg will tell me some shit like, so, do you know something? Yeah. Who are the top liners that you like to use? Top liners? It's not songwriters. Wait, what? I just listen here and over there. You're groomed and taught to connect the dots. The resources are just so vast. I was like a kid in fucking candy store. Up there, I can reach out to any producer, any songwriter, and just getting acclimated with the way they do things on a mass level was just, I needed that so bad. That was like rigged A&R 2.0.
So you know how once you make some move in the business, there's a write-up about it, right? Mm-hmm. You're in the trades, word gets around. Is there somebody that you didn't expect to hear from who reached out to you and was like, yo, congratulations?
No, because most of my friends, I didn't really share it until it happened. I was so concerned that it wasn't going to go through. It was kind of surreal because it was something I really wanted to see to come to fruition. So I'm very much a jinx karma guy. So it's just like, let me just formally sign everything off, and then when it gets out, it gets out.
And
so,
did it mean anything to your mom or dad, or maybe like relatives that you see at Thanksgiving or something? The Atlantic, brand?
My mom has
Ahmet
no
Erdogan?
idea. None. My mom is just like...
Has she seen the mural?
She knows two things. Piti Sang
mm-hmm.
and El Blanquito, which is Eminem.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm Pitbull.
Yeah.
Loves fucking Pitbull.
Should have signed Pitbull.
Yeah. Should have signed, right? Just
Armando.
Like
Yeah.
We tried to get Pitbull on the podcast, and his guy reached back and was like, well, Armando is not available right now.
He should be a fascinating one. I don't
100%.
think he gets enough credit for like what he's achieved.
Also, like a serious lyricist.
Yes.
Like we would talk about, like, I remember listening like on Friday night, all we did was listen to Hot 97, and I know where I was sitting in my car when he stopped by Ladies Night on Hot 97. Remember that?
Yeah.
And like they were like, just like shooting this shit and playing his records, and it was just like, man, this guy's next up. And then he went
early Armando.
Yeah, he went in a different direction, clearly.
Yeah,
but still like a lyricist, a dope rapper. Yeah, and punchlines.
There was a video in '99 making the rounds of Drag On from Rough Rider getting his ass handed to him, and then 3 years later I found out it was Pitbull.
Wow.
Like Pitbull just.
Oh, I thought that you meant like a fight.
No. It was like just
a battle.
Like Fight Club fight.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, he'd be a fascinating one for you guys.
So some of the early people you worked with at Atlantic, Wiz Khalifa, Action Bronson,
Travie
McCoy, an old friend of ours.
Post
Gym Class Heroes.
I had that, and then who there's being assigned and then there's signed.
Sure.
Since I had just got there and I was finding my footing, like I knew that the wheelhouse that I came from, it's not gonna work here. Like, but I did request for Lupe right away.
Wow.
They were like, "Who do you want to work on?" I was like, "Yo, Lupe." Like that's who I want. But at the time, the relationship just wasn't.
Yeah.
But I made the effort. I flew down to Chicago, met with Chill.
Oh yeah.
Inside, and just like made a sincere plea to allow me to get in.
Where were you when the protest happened outside, and Lior, that was before
Shady.
you.
Before.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
in Shady watching it from afar. But
So then you smelled the blood in the water this time.
But this time, if you're asking me, because I had just came off of recovery, and I'm just like, my God, if I could just do half of what I did on the recovery with Lupe, depending on how open he is, we'll get him back to. But that's when I got a lesson on the social dynamics and just like, dude, you can't, like, the way things were approached and that whole dynamic, you gotta. It's different. There's such a massive social component to this whole thing.
Well, because you're dealing with competition from within the building, and so like you have to work those relationships in ways that you didn't have to when you were the only guy, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
We love Wiz Khalifa as a person. We love him as an artist. Working together had to be wonderful.
I ended up replacing his previous guy because his previous guy went off to do some other stuff. His previous A&R. Shout out to Svi. Who signed Wiz Khalifa, and that took work. I had to go like 21 Jump Street in there, bro. Meaning like I had to smoke.
You were pretending to be a 16-year-old?
Well, I had to pretend I could fuck with the smoke.
Oh, yeah.
You ever smoke his shit?
No.
It's like alien weed,
right?
Bro. It's like really fucks you up, and I'm just like, yo, I'm a smoker, and I'm just like, I had the day upon that, he starts at 12 or he starts late, so it was like a complete disruption.
No one warned you?
Membrane.
Marsha didn't say anything?
Nope.
Will didn't say anything?
No. Oh no, Will told me something. This is shout out to Will. Yeah. It's my dude. Will was like, yeah, so this is after meeting Will, meeting Wiz, and this is gonna be your guy, this is Riggs. Meeting Dens. Will goes to me, turns around, he goes, yeah, listen, so don't bother sending anything, all right? We're fine here. I'm like, he's not gonna listen to them. I'm like, okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And I was like, one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
So, but then, I didn't get to establish myself in terms of what I could bring to the table. It was a weird combination of, you ready? O.T. Genesis and Hamilton.
Okay, so couple things there.
Wow.
O.T. Genesis, and we talk about this all the time. We hosted the showcase down at South by Southwest, where the whole Atlantic roster was there.
I heard stories about how good he was there.
Oh, he was amazing.
So you're talking about Gucci, Meek,
Cardi,
Ty Dolla $ign. It just like
The roster, yeah, like
everybody
Q.
was there, and no one outshined O.T. Genesis. O.T. Genesis had the crowd in the palm of his hand. All he has is hits. It's just like,
and that was 2 years ago, right? Maybe like 2, 3?
Yeah.
I think.
Dude, it's fascinating and frustrating. And now, because of some of the stuff he's doing, his charisma is now matching his music, so people get to see that side. So I'm thinking this year's going to be a big breakthrough for him. But the guy,
That Keisha Cole thing,
crazy, right?
Amazing.
He's got another one coming. I can't really spill the beans on
Oh my
it,
God.
but, you guys will really appreciate
no,
it.
he's a great dude, and he just makes hits.
Yeah, man.
Which is fantastic. So the other one was Hamilton.
Yes.
So did you know Lin-Manuel well?
No.
How did you guys connect? And
Well, because you guys are from the same area,
From the same neighborhood. Same neighborhood. I'm from Washington Heights as well, and he
Harlem.
He's this guy's on a show.
Yeah,
Harlem.
it's like you've named that. You're like, I'm from Harlem. I'm from Washington Heights and from the Bronx. So
Juelz, no, I can't claim that. I can't claim the Bronx. That's just like
138th, 163rd, 183rd. Yeah.
But the thing is, Juelz, I always took pride in Juelz being from 140 something in Broadway. He was from that area, so it's like one of those. Oh, he's from uptown. He's from Washington, Harlem.
By the way, I have zero skin in this game. I'm just talking with you.
No, it was just like I can't. There's no way I could claim the Bronx. And with Lin, we knew of each other. I knew if he was because he's the guy from the neighborhood that did a musical on the neighborhood, and he knows me from my work with Eminem and some of the stuff I did at the Source. So I was brought in, super honestly, I was the rap guy.
Yeah.
He was making the rounds with this idea that he had, like his next up, for my next magic trick.
Because he had already done In the Heights, and he was bringing Hamilton to the labels.
Yes, he was
to do the soundtrack.
Yes.
Yeah.
He pitched this idea, and it was just like. And then it was for me, I was like, yes, let's do it.
Is this like a normal, like just like any other artist meeting coming in? Or was it different because
part,
he's like different. A Broadway dude?
Yeah. We know that he's a creative genius. And I know that he's from around the neighborhood. And on my checklist of things to do is do something really successful with someone from the old neighborhood, which I never got to do until I connected with him. And trust, I've tried. Shout out to everyone I tried to put on and just completely fucked that up. So he pitches us the idea. Pete Gambarg, who was the head of, he's the president of A&R at Atlantic, went to Wesleyan, his alma mater.
Yeah.
And it was just like, he already was like, I'm in. But nobody's seen it yet. Like, let's go check it out. And he gave us an opportunity to go check out the dress rehearsal. But even before we went to the dress rehearsal, it was like, based off what he was trying to do, because he was like, there's a character that's like Busta Rhymes, and there's one that's like Action Bronson, and in my mind and we were like, let's do a mixtape, you know? When I saw the dress rehearsal was when I was like, holy shit. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was going to be the mass shit that it is now. I know that it was great. I know that it was important. And as the father of what, you know, of a up and coming, a child on the way, I said, if my child could watch this and see this and experience this, he'll learn hip hop, he'll learn history, he'll learn musicals all in one shot.
Wow.
And it had its effect on everyone. So I came back running like, guys, we gotta do this deal, because it was definitely a resistance to do cast albums don't sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At all. I'm gonna get the Roots, but the Roots aren't really selling what they, you know, they're the Roots. They're one of the world's most important bands, but in terms of sales, not something.
They're
that,
prestige, you know, act.
Legacy act.
Yeah.
And both these things I was using as my pitch, and it's just, you know, wasn't really working. And man, Craig Kalman, bless his soul, was just like, let's do it. And we did it, and other vultures started circling, because now the deal wasn't done, but the play was already hitting. It was at the Public. So now all the other labels started circling
At the Public
around.
Theater.
At the Public Theater.
So
Yeah,
before
downtown.
it hits Broadway.
Yeah, before it hits Broadway.
And
so
like,
there's still,
so the buzz started going around, and it was just like,
the
fuck.
deal wasn't done, yeah. So
Yeah.
they're like, yo, what the hell happened? So now I got to get into super pitch mode. And it was a simple pitch with Lin. It was like, if you do this with us, if you do this with me, I guarantee you it will not get treated as a Broadway thing. Because you could tell in his pitch, like, he didn't want this to just sit on Broadway. You could hear the Big Pun influence, the Mobb Deep influence. You know, they had to clear the Biggie stuff with the estate. Like, he put in work, 7 years of work. He doesn't want to just fall by the wayside. And we did that. We sonically treated it like a hip-hop album, which is why one of the best feedbacks I get is, I listen to it with my son. I listen to it with my kid. That means that you're tolerant to the sonics,
Yeah.
on something that traditionally is 75% vocal and then 25%, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So, so that did well. At this point, that's
you can't get tickets still. It's fine.
But that definitely helped establish me at Atlantic for doing. It gave me permission to just.
Yeah.
Now, does your mom understand that?
No.
No?
Unfortunately,
But
no.
did she understand In the Heights?
No.
What?
My mom is, like I said, my mom, rest in peace, was like, she's an immigrant. Like, she literally, she didn't even know English. I mean, she didn't know English. 30 years in this fucking country, and she didn't know English, So, she didn't get it, but she kind of knew Lin, because Lin was everywhere, So, but that's basically it, With Spanish moms, they just, are you making any money? So.
What were you?
Hamilton has done quite well for everyone.
Good.
I gotta admit,
Yeah.
because the economics attached to that has just been like, bear in mind, it's doing what it's doing. We have no videos. There's barely any marketing spent on something like that.
Yeah.
The word of mouth has just been massive, and then it goes from place to place, and eventually the film's gonna come out, and there's always like a bump. That's why it's at, where it's at.
For as much success as you had previous to Hamilton, right? And you can talk about all the artists that you worked with and all the cool things and the cool places you've done. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Grammys.
Oh, Beyonce.
It's a bigger sort of world than maybe you were used to. What did Hamilton do to change your life?
At peak powers, Eminem, you could drop his name in any household, white, black, and it's like, oh, Eminem.
Oh, El Blanquito.
El Blanco. But with Hamilton, it's a different monster. It is definitely, I'll go in being judged, and once the word gets out what I've done with Hamilton, it's just like I'm freaking
Every wedding you go to,
yes.
somebody comes up to you and is like, "Oh, I just heard, I don't want to say anything, but..."
Yeah, and as you guys, know, I don't really brag or just like, it's just not my cup of tea. But once it gets out, it's a different thing. And even with doctors and nurses and senators or whatever, it's just like, it definitely, it resonates.
Did you just say doctors or nurses or senators?
Yeah. No, it's just like...
It's pretty great.
Yeah,
it's pretty
that's
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
So you're playing in a different... And it's by far... Look, before that, the standard for me was like, all right, I got a diamond single with Love the Way You Lie. I gave M Monster before I left. Like, I did quite well in terms of... But this one was the most fulfilling.
Yeah.
That's
one
like you said before, that's your guy from your neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty special.
On so many, that's why, on the sales side, I recently posted something up about the sales because it was kind of surreal. It's just like, wait, what? Like, I knew it was doing well, but not to this
30,000.
It's a little something. And I'm just but fulfilling just in terms of, what it meant, what it's done for the culture. The fact that one of the things I take a lot of pride in it is it sat #1 on the hip hop charts. For about 2 weeks. That was kind of cool.
What's the best story you have of taking somebody to go see it?
Dude, Busta. Because Busta was Busta was kind of like my Hiroshima to try to seal the deal. I knew that he was on top of Lin's list and I'm like, Busta, we had just done O.T. Genesis. So I kind of knew Busta, but Busta at least trusted me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, listen, I need you to go check something out real quick. It's weird. It's a weird ask, but I need you to come see this musical with me. He's like, musical? The only time he had available was coming off of some flight where he was super jet lagged. So I'm like, all right, he's committed to doing it. And Busta's coming. The whole cast is just like, oh my God, Busta Rhymes is here. Sits in the front. Busta's tired, dude. Busta's on a jet lag. And Busta's watching it. He's enjoying it. But then Busta just knocks out. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I would do something because I'm sitting next to him, I would do something like, oh, shit. Do a little nudge, like a homie nudge, did you see that? Just to wake him up because, dude, we're going to, you're helping me, but you're hurting me right now. But he definitely, he played an integral part and just he came by, hung out. He loved it, legit. He did some show afterwards and they connected him with the costume designer so he can get the King's outfit for his...
just one thing about Busta. Busta is also similar to Paul in that he is a gigantic human being.
Right.
When you're sitting next to him, is it like being on an airline and somebody is just too wide for the seat and you are just crushed?
Yes, which made the shoving a little easier. So I'm glad you pointed that out. It wasn't like I had to go like this. It was more like a quick little, and then he would just wake up. And then he was super engaged when we went afterwards. But him, it turned into I started smuggling motherfuckers because it's a hard thing to convince people to go check out. Even Paul, I wanted M involved in some capacity. So I'm like, I want to get Paul involved.
But M doesn't leave the house.
No, but he did for this though.
That's nice.
We got him.
That says something.
Yeah, it's something about you, I think.
We got him to come down, enjoy, a day in New York, whatever, and just shout out to Len Blavatsky, who lent us the
PJ.
The PJ, make it work. But freaking Paul, I come to find out the day after, because I sent an email. This is one of those where I cashed in on the Paul homie card. I was like, dude, you have to go with this. I know what I'm presenting is weird. I know it's this and that. He was like, all right, fine. He spent the entire fucking next 24 hours until he had to go all around the office. And this got back to me like, fucking Riggs wants us to go to this stupid fucking play of his. Can't believe we're doing this. Anyway, we can cancel, blah, blah, blah. Which is funny because I didn't know this till after he hit me and was like, yo, that was amazing.
Man.
So it was...
So Hamilton, humongous success, leads into a bunch of other cool opportunities in the Heights, which started off on Broadway, is now going to be a major motion picture.
Yes.
And you are working on the music for that.
Yes.
Up until at least right before the holidays.
Yeah.
So what is that process like? How much do you enjoy that? And how meaningful is it to be about the neighborhood you grew up in by a guy who started in that neighborhood as well?
I don't want to speak prematurely in saying that that's probably the pinnacle of my fulfillment in what I was looking to accomplish for somebody from the neighborhood. But man, like he himself is just a genuinely, legitimately good human being. Like he's just, what you see is what you get when you deal with them. Creative genius aside, all that stuff, he's just a good human being. We don't formally do all the Lin stuff like legally. It's based off like relationship. He's in no rush to do anything with anyone, but he does everything with us because there's a trust there. So when he signed my when the Hamilton book came out, he had signed mine, and I said, "This is for you." So I opened it, and he put, "Riggs, thanks for keeping your promise."
Wow.
And that's when I promised him, that I would
treat it like a
Yeah.
And that in itself that led to opportunities, whether it's him just doing charitable stuff for Puerto Rico or anything in regards to him. And also, I think we provide a nice little outlet for him to really, like the Duke of Rap, So I'm like, we have outlets for you to express that whenever you feel like it. When we worked my way out with the Nas record, he was just like, I think I might have to get on this. I'm like, bro, go for it, So and that I'm sure was off that's on his checklist, doing a record with Nas, So it's amazing. Seeing your neighborhood on film, especially Highbridge Pool, which is where like folks used to like go take their pit bulls to fucking give them baths, and you've encountered more than 3 fucking brown submarines in that. You get your sneakers taken, and this is the middle of a big choreographed dance number, and it's he wanted to make sure. Thank you, Harvey Weinstein, for fucking that up, because Harvey Weinstein had the rights and was adamant about shooting this in L.A.
Wow.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah. So when finally this shit happened, folks walked in and was like, "Hey, so." Yeah. And,
wow.
And it worked itself out to where he shot everything in the neighborhood, and to see these places in the neighborhood just on film has been pretty surreal.
Oh yeah, I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Sort of like a lightning round, but like go off as much. It's just like I have 3 more.
Same
questions.
if I could just jump in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You were there in Japan.
Yes.
When Eminem met Mac Miller.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Mac Miller was like, dude, that was my first time meeting Mac Miller, and Mac Miller was just like almost like timid, really appreciative, and you couldn't tell there was any signs of any darkness. He was just like a good kid, and you kind of again give him this space. They finally meet. It's in Japan, out of all places. He had just seen the show, and they were just kicking it, and I think they stayed in touch from then on. But that's one I would have loved to have seen them collaborating.
Yeah.
Because I think especially the Mac Miller that we were getting at the later stage would have been a really good look with them, because he was advancing in a really awesome way.
Yeah.
Related to that, Alchemist was there.
Yes.
And you've known Alchemist forever. Mm-hmm. You've traveled all over with him. Now we know that because we saw Action Bronson at an airport, and he and his road manager and Alchemist were all traveling together. Mm-hmm. And the road manager and Action were pissed because Alchemist is the only one of the 3 who checks his luggage.
That's some Alchemist shit.
So I want to know what's it like to travel with Alchemist.
Well, that's the thing. I can't say that I've traveled with him enough, but I'm surprised to hear, like, we're carry-on people. Like, in this line of work, you carry on. Nobody checks in.
Get in and get out.
Yeah, I'll check in if I'm just not in the mood to lug shit around and I have enough time to spare once I land, but nobody checks in. That is kind of like, that's like cutting a Snicker.
Yeah.
So, come on, Al.
Speaking of people who have done great by your neighborhood, we all know that you're from the Bronx, and you were in a photo.
Yo, Marsha thinks I'm from the Bronx. I'm sorry, I had to laugh. Marsha, and Kareem, her man, he was like, "Yo, BX." Tags me BX. I'm like, I gotta talk to Kareem and just let him know. Sorry.
But you were in a photo very early on, like '97, with Big Pun,
Fat Joe,
the Beatnuts,
Angie.
Yeah. So where was that, and like how did that all?
And you're
happen?
all in white.
Yeah, that was a Santeria ritual. No, it wasn't. It was a off the books video shoot. And at that time, I was a big pun advocate. Like, you didn't see it coming, but as a hip hop Latino in the game, it's like what he's about to do, or at least is on the verge of doing. You try to document as much of it and being involved with it. A little well-known fact, in the Off the Books video, I'm the Herb getting beat up by Psycho Les.
Congratulations.
That is I.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So when he says, motherfucker saying, fuck Lester, I'm saying fuck Lester.
Wow.
So that was from that video.
You were the motherfucker. By the way, Future was going to do a video for I Just Fucked Your Bitch and some Gucci flip-flops. And the guy whose bitch was being fucked was going to be Eric. Eric was cast.
Yeah.
All right.
Video never got published, but that's fine. That's
How
fine.
did that work? How does that work?
It's a longer, stupid story.
Where Future fucked his bitch and some Gucci flip-flops.
It's
neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But it is true.
Can you talk about our man Green Lantern? Any good stories from Green?
Oh my God, Green Lantern. It's funny, I don't think about Green Lantern until I'm asked about Green Lantern, and then it just takes you through like a 5 or 6 year period of working with one of the funniest, creative, DJs. Like he set a pretty awesome standard. Like that dude, I got to work with him on an album that was supposed to come out on Shady.
Yeah.
And then the whole Jadakiss thing happened, kind of fucked that up. But like he a lot more talented than he gets credit for. Green Lantern. Yep. He works hard. One of my favorite folk. I haven't seen him in years, so
great dude.
I can't say I have any stories that I'm able to tell on record. About Green Lantern.
How much of you today is still that same kid who grew up on 163rd or 138th, whichever? Yeah,
Bronx.
Or in the Bronx. Yeah.
Or the Bronx. Yeah.
Shout out to the X.
Yeah.
I want to say still. Not a day goes by that I don't get reminded.
You haven't forgot about your neighborhood
at all, and I just don't get reminded of my plight, and which is why my standards are so high when I work with people, especially like with interns or just like anyone. Is just like like I'm judging you already. Because I'm like, let me see if you have any of the remnants or any of the things that I did. This guy right here is actually one of my favorite. It's
shout out to Nick Watkins.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nick Watkins.
Yeah.
I like to say it like Nick Watkins. Like even like with Nick, it's just like, all right, like Nick served as temp for a hot second over at Atlantic, and I've always kept in mind during that small window that I got to deal with him, like. He's going places, he just happens to be a talented photographer as well.
Yeah, he made it to our apartment.
Blowing up,
yeah.
But I see that, and one of the things that I'm very proud of, I have no problem putting somebody on, at all, especially if there's something about them that I can relate to, no matter the race, color, breed, whatever. Like it's a big thing for me, so I want to apologize to everyone for Johnny Nunez.
Oh my God,
that is my fault.
I do have a question about that. He took a picture of you and George Lucas.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Let me tell you how that happened, my friend. So I met Johnny when Johnny and Lenny, before he was an A&R, they used to both come by the source and give me pictures for the Coast to Coast section.
Yeah.
They would always come in like clockwork. So they kept my shit easy. All I had to do was just fill in the blanks and just write the taglines. Johnny, I didn't know at the time, was living in a car, just like really going through it. So that would help him. Years go on, and Johnny, you're at an event. He makes you pose next to Russell, even though you don't know Russell. Like, hey, Eric, you know Russell? And then he takes 1,000 pictures of you and Russell. You never see that picture ever. So one day there was a Russell Simmons tribute or something taking place. We got a table at Shady. I go, and I'm talking to Jeff Sledge. And I'm like talking to Jeff. I was like, you see this dude behind me? This motherfucker look like George Lucas. Jeff is like, no, that is George Lucas. And I was like, what? I turn around. And I'm like, bro, that's really George. Yeah, I need a photo. Like, I need a photo. Who's going to take this photo? I'm waiting. I'm looking around. I had to go to someone who I didn't want to go to and kind of do this pitch. I'm like, listen, man, I don't usually ask for this, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I'm going to go speak to George and whatever. Well, he just sat down to eat. I'm like, fuck, all right, let's see what we could do. Let's comb the perimeter. As I'm walking towards the perimeter, who walks in?
Shameless Johnny.
Johnny. Who's Mr. I owe you for everything I've done? Johnny. So Johnny walks in. I'm like, oh my God, Johnny. I straight ran to this dude like, Johnny, George Lucas is at the table. I need this fucking photo. And that's part one. is getting the photo. Johnny and his innocently obnoxious self goes to fucking George Lucas, who has this tucked, like he has the napkin tucked, eating. He's like, Mr. Lucas, have you met Rigoberto? Gives him the government.
Wow.
Have you met Rigoberto Morales? And he gets up. He does the courtesy, give me the courtesy freaking handshake. By the time he realizes that I'm a fucking nobody, Johnny done took like 1,000 photos. So it was like, ta. It was like a quick hi, thank you. No, just big fan of your work. I just want to say, please continue eating, And I left. Then I had to follow Johnny for the rest of the night to get the fucking photo. So I had to go to the room that he has a computer and log in, and I finally got that picture. So yeah, that's how I got it. And to me, that's karma / paying it forward. Yeah. I've never asked Johnny for a single thing. I don't plan on it.
You don't ask him for the Getty password?
Yo, that's a good one. That's a good one. You know what? That's a really good one. Nah, dude. And it's just like, that's, you know what? For all the times that you say you owe me, but this is all I need. I just need this one moment. And to me, it goes back to fulfillment. Like, one thing I've learned in this business, man, like you can't believe your own hype. I mean, in my opinion, you can't believe your own hype. This shit could end, especially in the line of work that I do. Like, it's built on, hits and just like, relevancy or whatever. I've managed to had a pretty awesome career that started from internships 20 years ago all the way to what I'm doing now. There's still more to go. And sometimes I'll spot the next version of me. And I was just like, you know what? Go ahead, your turn. But I'm just give you one shot. If you don't take advantage of that, that's on you. And that's where we at with it, man. I made a commitment a long time ago that I was like, I was in a situation where I was just like, man upstairs, I was just like, hey, send them to me, I'll take care of the rest. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I go to church every Sunday or nothing like that, but I am very much rooted in spiritual belief, karma, and, there's a lot. There's time to give back.
Yeah, Riggs, congratulations on everything to this point. It's really a one-of-one path, and we just appreciate you sharing it with us. Everything in your past, and as far as the future, as they say on Broadway, and also as they say when Riggs jumps on a Razor scooter, break a leg.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it. And by the way, I want to shout out Jason Davis, who I know, like, every time I see you guys, hanging out with Jason, who I'm going to put him on the spot as one of the funniest motherfuckers.
He is Jewish.
That I know. Yeah. Like, there's a part of me that, because I love, comedy as well. And it's just like, there's a part of me that's like, in another life, I'm going to end up doing something with this guy. Like, just some sort of writing something. And props to you guys, because, without it, I'm just keep it funky. I remember when you guys did the Don't Be Mad UPS is hiring.
Yeah.
And that's when you guys first came on my radar. I was like, oh shit. Like, folks that can bring humor and hip hop into one, and to see you guys evolve has been awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nah, totally, man.
Thanks everyone for listening to this new episode of A Waste Time with It's The Real. Jeff, people want to find out more about us. I'm Eric, you're Jeff. Together, we are It's The Real, no apostrophe. Space that people want to find out more about this podcast. It's called A Waste of Time with It's The Real. If people want to find out more about what's going on with us, Jeff, where can they go?
You can always go to itsthereal.com, ItsTheReal.com. I put a little flair in there.
Nice.
I also think that you can find us on any streaming platform, including the one that you are currently listening to.
You think we can?
I bet you could if you try hard enough. You can find us on Spotify. You can even go to Apple, Castbox, Overcast, Acast,
YouTube,
Pippa.
Wow.
The whole gang.
Yeah.
The whole slew. Go search for it. You want to know what? I dare you to find us on Spotify.
There you go.
Yeah, that'll show you. Here's a challenge.
Jeff, are you still Bing Gang?
Yeah. You want to find us on Bing?
Where can people find us on social media?
Social media. I'm talking about @ItsTheReal on Twitter, @ItsTheReal on Instagram. And hey, did I tell you guys about Bing?
Jeff, now is the time when we like to shout people out. Supporters, people who are great human beings, people who listen to the end of the podcast. Jeff, who are you looking to shout today?
I want to shout out my upstairs neighbor for not continuing to drill into my ceiling.
Yeah, one hole is enough.
One hole, that's it.
That's where it begins and that's where it ends. Jeff, have you knocked on the ceiling? Have you let them know that this is not to be?
I'm going to tell you what I honestly thought about doing. Thought about re-screwing it upwards.
Wouldn't that be funny when they walk around in their bare feet?
Yeah. I also want to shout out Jason Davis.
Yeah.
That's 2 shout outs on this episode for
pretty
Jason.
Great. That's pretty great.
Jason's been wondering what the shout out was for the past week.
Well,
guess what?
There
was. Yeah, now there are 2.
Jeff, I want to shout out all of our friends up there in Vancouver, British Columbia.
All of them?
Well, specifically our guy Nico, who, when we shouted him out in the previous episode and we said, listen, he welcomed us into his shop and was a huge fan of ours, and then told us about the sale that they were having in their store, and the sale was still expensive. We said...
I mean, it was only 1,000 Canadian dollars,
That's
which
right.
is really like 850 American dollars.
We said, thank you, have a good day. We left, came back to America with no jacket.
No jacket.
But on Instagram the other day, Nico showed up in an Instagram Live and said, hey, if you really want that Don C jacket, it's 850 American dollars. Shout out to our guy Nico. Shout out to all you guys for listening. As always, guys, not for real, for real.
Sure.
See you guys next week.